What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 10 Shish. Chapter 226 is over, and the Blackbeard team suffers. Lu Chen, uncle. At this time, Luffy looked at Lu Chen and Whitebeard who suddenly appeared on the boat with surprise. Lu Chen smiled and turned to Marco and Ace who were stagnant in the air not far away. Hey, are you two coming back? Marco came back to his senses, turned around and flew back with Ace. Daddy. As soon as the two returned to the boat, they excitedly walked towards Whitebeard. At this time, Diamond Yoja and others also all surrounded Whitebeard. Lousy isn't dead yet. Whitebeard also eased up at this time, grinning. Immediately, he looked at Lu Chen and said solemnly, "Thank you, Lu Chen." Whitebeard is sincerely thanking Lu Chen. After all, this summit war, Lu Chen helped them a lot. Not only rescued Ace, 100, but also blocked Marine Admiral for their Whitebeard pirates, even more than one. And now, it even rescued him. This kind of kindness is not too big. At this time, the red hair and others couldn't help but look at Lu Chen. Ben Beckman raised his eyebrows. That's the red-eye Lu Chen. Usopp nodded and said, sure enough. The redhead laughed. Luffy has found such a powerful partner. In fact, even if Lu Chen didn't save Whitebeard, they wouldn't just watch Blackbeard and others kill Whitebeard. Otherwise, what they just said would be nothing. What I didn't expect was that Lu Chen actually saved Whitebeard first. And it's used in such a magical way. Sengoku frowned. Lu Chen. Kizaru was surprised. What kind of ability is that? It feels familiar. Aokiji's eyes moved. In fact, he also experienced Kamui of Lu Chen. Seeing it again at this time, he also felt a little familiar. It's like, CP9's Blue Nose Door Fruit ability is the same, but it seems to be much stronger. Akainu's face darkened. If these guys don't get rid of them, they will definitely be Marine's henchmen in the future. As for Blackbeard and the others, they were completely stunned. Badgers asked blankly, Captain, what should I do? Fan Oka and the others looked gloomy, and they didn't know what to do for a while. On the contrary, the wine barrels and the others looked at each other in dismay, and suddenly turned around and ran for their lives in tacit understanding. From the current situation, it is impossible for them to hunt down Whitebeard anymore. If Whitebeard could not be solved, it meant that Blackbeard's idea of dual fruit ability had failed. Blackbeard, who only has the ability of dark fruit, is not worth following. At this moment, even Shiryu of Rain left without hesitation. A-hole. Seeing everyone leave, Blackbeard's face twisted. However, when he saw the gazes from the red-haired and others, and the gazes from the Marines, he quickly calmed down. The key now is not to kill Whitebeard and take his shock fruit ability. Instead, escape. That's right, just run for your life. Originally according to Blackbeard's plan, if he could successfully capture the Whitebeard shock fruit ability. At that time, with the ability to shake the secret double fruit, he is even confident that he can smash Marine and destroy Marineford. Even if red hair appears, it doesn't matter. But now, without the Whitebeard shock fruit ability, his powers are very limited. What's more, now the big wine barrel and others have turned away from him. Blackbeard knew very well that the red hair pirates, Marine and others wanted to kill him. If you stay here again, you will undoubtedly be waiting to die. Thinking of this, Blackbeard ran away with Badgers and the others in a hurry. Certainly, although he was very embarrassed, he was not too discouraged. His double fruit ability plan, the most important, is not the shock fruit ability, but the dark fruit ability. Now that he has the ability of dark fruit, it is only a matter of time before he becomes a dual fruit ability. After leaving here, he can completely snatch the abilities of other capable people, but before that, shock fruit was his first choice. Hey, where do you want to go? The big wine barrel and the others, Shiryu of the Rain, and Blackbeard wanted to escape, but at this moment, a tall and strong old man stood in front of them. It was none other than Garp. In the face of his grandson, Garp can let go, but in the face of these vicious criminals, Garp will not show any mercy. Seeing the Marine hero Garp, the big wine barrel and the others who stopped in front of them, the faces suddenly became ugly. Blackbeard's face was also extremely ugly. Hey, isn't the battle over? Don't let us leave. And I'm still 7 warlords of the sea. Are you going to break the covenant and take action against the 7 warlords of the sea? Just then, a voice echoed Blackbeard's words. The battle is indeed over. It is Sengoku. Sengoku glanced at Garp dissatisfied, and then said to Blackbeard, our battle with the Whitebeard pirates is over, but it doesn't mean that the battle with you is over. He glanced at the big wine barrel and the others. You are prisoners on the 6th floor of Impel Down. If you are sensible, then go back with me obediently, otherwise, I don't mind letting you sink into the sea. Then Sengoku looked at Blackbeard again. As for you, you have privately released the prisoners on the 6th floor of Impel Down, and your heart is punishable. You are no longer suitable for the role of 7 warlords of the sea. I will now take the role of Marine Marshal and dismiss your power. Now, you're just a simple pirate. If in the original book, Blackbeard has already captured Whitebeard's shock fruit ability, that's fine. But the current Blackbeard, although the power is strange, it is also very limited. That being the case, Sengoku certainly couldn't have let him and the prisoners on the 6th floor of Impel Down escape. FKU all 1.3 guys. Great eruption. Akainu was overjoyed when he saw Garp and Sengoku's actions. He couldn't take another shot at the Whitebeard pirates, he just held his breath. Now, take Blackbeard and others to operate. The terrifying magma fist slammed into Blackbeard and the others. At the same time, Kizaru was not idle either. He flew directly into the air, his hands clasped together, and the rays of light flashed. 8-foot Chongu Jade. The dense light waves penetrated into the crowd instantly. There was also Aokiji, who also rushed towards Blackbeard and the others with a cold air. In the original, the methods Kizaru and Aokiji used on Luffy were used to hunt down Blackbeard and others. Most importantly, this time they didn't hold back at all. In just an instant, Blackbeard and the others were stunned. Chapter 227 The Funeral of the White Group, Luffy's New Training Plan. This moment, 5 top combat powers are bombarding Blackbeard and others. The scene was a miserable one. Among these people Blackbeard, it is not that there is no one who can fight. But the top combat power, very few, not even a single one. Under such circumstances, Sengoku et al. Could not be stopped at all. Blackbeard also tried to overturn the Dark Fruit ability, and even temporarily killed a Marine Admiral to take his ability. As a result, Garp went over with an iron fist and directly called Blackbeard a man. Hearing Blackbeard's screams, the Whitebeard pirates and the others suddenly felt refreshed. Good fight. Deserved. 35. That traitor, you should teach him like this. As for the red hair pirates and others, they are also smiling. Ben Beckman even asked the redhead, would you like to take this opportunity and kill Blackbeard? 35. He was still clear about the intersection between Redhead and Blackbeard. Plus, he also knew that the redhead valued Blackbeard. Hearing Ben Beckman's words, the redhead moved, but shook his head. If they shot O2, Blackbeard and others would have absolutely nowhere to escape. But Sengoku and others should not be willing to join forces with them. Most importantly, now that Marine has decided to end the Summit War, if they stay here, they will probably arouse the suspicions of Sengoku and others. Whitebeard clearly understood this, and immediately ordered, let's get out of here first. That's it. When Blackbeard and others were beaten by Sengoku and others, Chen and others, as well as the White Group and the Red Group, left the Marineford battlefield safely. After half a day, the crowd's ships were completely away from Marineford. At this time, most people's tense nerves relaxed. Finally, it's safe. But what followed was a sad, depressing atmosphere. At this moment, even Luffy, who had always jumped out, became silent. It's a good thing to save Ace without even sacrificing Whitebeard. But when he came back to his senses, he realized that the Whitebeard pirates had also suffered a large number of casualties. The number of casualties was almost innumerable, completely surpassing all previous battles by the Bai Tuan. Ace looked guilty, and Marco looked pained. Whitebeard's tone was extremely heavy. Little ones, let's bury our dead comrades this time. At last, on Whitebeard's home island, a grand funeral was still held. But this time the protagonists are not Whitebeard and Ace, but the anonymous pirates who died in Summit War. Among the flowers, there are many tombstones. Red hair pirates and others, as guests, attended the funeral. Chen and Luffy are also on the list. Luffy is still not as active as before, silently watching Ace and others cry bitterly, cherishing his companions. Suddenly, Luffy asked Chen, I heard that the Grand Line New World is more dangerous and the enemy is more powerful, right? 35. Hearing this, Chen's expression changed. That's for sure. Luffy's face suddenly became firm. I want to be stronger. I don't want to go through something like this in the future, like Ace. 55. Chen raised his eyebrows. It seems that Bai Tuan's funeral has touched Luffy a lot. But it's normal to think about it. Before that, Luffy's experience had always been slapstick. It is rare to experience such a life and death scene. But now, such a scene was actually staged in front of him. I guess Luffy is scared too. If he is weaker, he may not be able to save Ace. And in fact, in the original book, Ace is indeed dead. It is precisely because of that incident that Luffy has become completely mature and has the state of mind to reach the top. And now, what makes Chen a little relieved is that Ace is not dead, but Luffy has grown up. Just when Chen thought about it, Luffy continued, Chen, make a new training plan for me. I'm going to be strong until no one can knock me down. As strong as Whitebeard, even known as the strongest man in the world, he couldn't even protect his partner. This situation brought great excitement to Luffy. At this time, he was more eager for power than before. And Luffy's reaction is what Chen wants to see. To be frank, in fact, he was still worried how to let Luffy practice for 2 years with peace of mind. After all, in order to open the third gear, he practiced the closed mantra for a year, and he almost collapsed. There is no doubt that if you want to cultivate the fourth gear, or even the fifth gear, you obviously need more difficult conditions. But now, shouldn't be a problem, because Luffy is already desperate to get stronger. Give him a new training plan and he'll be super hard at it. Thinking of this, Chen didn't say anything else, and immediately thought about it and began to customize. Target, rubber fourth gear. Open black lens bracket ding. The training plan has been drawn up. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket training object. Monkey D. Luffy close black lens bracket. Training goal. Turn on the fourth gear of the rubber. Close black lens bracket. Training plan. Defeat 3,000 large beasts. Close black lens bracket. Oh. Chen's face moved. This rubber fourth gear training plan seems to be simpler than the rubber third gear. After all, the active Luffy, of course, prefers fighting more than closing his mouth. However, it is obviously not easy to defeat 3,000 large beasts. In this way, this plan also requires Luffy to be proficient in Master Two-Color Hockey. In that case, he can naturally open the fourth gear. After returning to his senses, Chen immediately said to Luffy, "Your new training plan has been formulated." Luffy's eyes lit up. "Really, what is 117? Chen immediately spoke out about the plan. "What, defeating 3,000 large beasts?" Rao is that Luffy had already anticipated the difficulty of the new training plan, but he couldn't help being surprised. Chen raised his eyebrows. "Why, scared?" Luffy's expression suddenly became positive. "How is it possible? It's just 3,000 large beasts, I can't beat me." 35. 3,000 large beasts are indeed a very exaggerated number. But when he thought of the terrifying performance of Akainu and others at Summit War, Luffy was full of confidence. After entering the New World, they will definitely face the Marine Admiral. Even if you want to become the Pirate King, you will definitely go to war with Marine and even other top powerhouses. If he doesn't overcome these difficulties, how can he have a powerful force that rivals those terrifying beings? Besides, Luffy is of course more willing to fight this kind of training than to keep his mouth shut. In that case, when the funeral is over, I'll take you to a place. If it goes well, after 2 years, it should be over. For Sanji Usopp, I've already made arrangements. Chen said immediately. 2 years. Luffy was startled, then nodded firmly. Although 2 years is a long time, in order to better protect partners in the future and conquer this sea, it can only be like this. Chapter 228 Blackbeard survives, Chen's new bounty. A few days later, a sea far away from Marineford. On the pirate ship named Charles Dameter, Chidoro's Higlegs and his men were staring at a bearded man lying on the bed. Speaking of Chidoro's Higlegs, many people may not be impressed. But if we talk about T-Beard, many people should remember who it is. T-Beard is one of the active pirates in New World. After learning the outcome of the Summit War, he excitedly took his men and prepared to invade Whitebeard's territory. Whitebeard is indeed not dead. But anyone with a heart knows that after the Summit War, Whitebeard is already dead. So as soon as the results of the Summit War came out, many pirates in the New World, like hungry wolves, rushed to Whitebeard's territory. Among them, the other four emperors, Kaido of the Beasts and Big Mom are the most. T-Beard also wanted a piece of the pie. Of course, he also knew his own strength, so this time his target was only a small island under Whitebeard's banner. Just on the way, they rescued a strange bearded man in the sea. This unfamiliar bearded man was obviously seriously injured, and his face was so bruised that he couldn't distinguish his original appearance. Originally, T-Beard didn't want to meddle in his own business, but considering that after capturing the island, he needed more subordinates to manage, so he rescued him easily. After several days of treatment, the bearded man is apparently in stable condition and has recovered. "Hey, who are you?" T-Beard looked at the bearded man and asked suspiciously. For some reason, he always felt that the bearded man looked familiar. But because his face was still a little swollen, he couldn't recognize it for a while. At this time, the bearded man looked at T-Beard and others, and then looked at the unfamiliar environment around him, and was suddenly stunned. T-Beard frowned, thinking that he wouldn't save a fool. It was at this moment that the bearded man seemed to have reacted, and suddenly he looked up to the sky and laughed. "Thief, ha 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 ha, I can't die like this, it seems that God is destined to make me do something." T-Beard was stunned, and his subordinates were also full of question marks. At this time, a subordinate suddenly came to report. "Boss T-Beard, Marine, there is a new bounty list." Oh, T-Beard's face changed, and he didn't care about the bearded man for a while, and stretched out his hand. "Bring it here." 35. As a pirate, T-Beard is very concerned about Marine's movements, especially the bounty list. Because the reward order above will tell him who can be provoked and who can't be provoked. It's only been a while since the Summit War, and Marine has now released a new bounty list, which seems to be related to the people who participated in the Summit War. As predicted, the 3 new bounty lists are all people who have participated in the Summit War and their worth has soared. The first one. It is the Straw Hat Luffy who has been in the limelight recently. His bounty has soared to 400 million Bailey. Seeing this bounty, T-Beard and his subordinates broke into a cold sweat. 400 million. Very scary. This Straw Hat, Luffy, is amazing. 35. For them, Luffy is definitely a pirate rookie. But the current pirate rookie is simply too fierce. You know, T-Beard has been active in New World for so many years, and he only offered a bounty of 80.06 million Bailey. 400 million Baileys, that's 5 times his. Obviously, this is a guy who can't be provoked. If I meet him in New World in the future, I guess I have to take a detour. Straw Hat Luffy. When the bearded man heard the name, his face suddenly sank, and then he took the reward list from T-Beard's hand directly. T-Beard and the others were stunned for a moment. At this time, the bearded man looked at the reward list on his own. Straw Hat Luffy, you are so lucky. Oh, there's also this guy Chen, who even offered a reward of 1 billion. Hearing the words of the bearded man, T-Beard and the others did not bother to trouble the bearded man, but looked over quickly. Then they all took a deep breath. Billion Baileys. A billion Baileys indeed. The cadre of the Straw Hat Pirates, Red Eye, Chen, whose bounty was even higher than the captain of the Straw Hat Luffy. When the bearded man saw this, he didn't seem to be surprised. But for Chen, he gritted his teeth even more. Damn it, one day, I'll kill you. T-Beard and the others were stunned when they heard the words. Why does this guy seem to know Luffy and Chen? Immediately afterwards, the bearded man opened the final reward list. The final bounty list is not from the Straw Hat Pirates. It's from the Whitebeard Pirates. To be more precise, he was a former member of the Whitebeard Pirates. Blackbeard, Marshal D. Teach. His bounty is also very high, although it is not as good as Chen, but it is also 500 million. 500 million Baileys, Blackbeard. Seeing this, T-Beard and the others were stunned again. This Blackbeard, they also know each other. Not long ago, he suddenly replaced Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. But what's going on now? Did he get a bounty? Does this mean that he is no longer 7 warlords of the sea? Ha 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 ha. At this moment, the bearded man grinned and swept away the anger just now. T-Beard and the others were startled. Backquote. Wait, this guy. Why does he look so much like Blackbeard on the bounty list? Shouldn't it be? T-Beard took a closer look at the bearded man, and suddenly his face changed greatly. You are Blackbeard. 39. The bearded man laughed again. Ha 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 ha, do you recognize me? Hearing this, T-Beard and the others changed their expressions instantly. No wonder they thought the bearded man was so familiar. So he is Blackbeard, former Whitebeard pirates, former 7 warlords of the sea, Blackbeard. T-Beard and the others' faces suddenly became extremely ugly, and many people even trembled. This one in front of me is a big pirate with a bounty of 500 million. Seeing the reactions of T-Beard and others, Blackbeard smiled even more and was greatly satisfied. After Chen and others left, they were bombarded by Sengoku and others. In the absence of top powerhouses, their fate can be imagined. Originally, Blackbeard thought that this God Zhao was doomed, but he never imagined that he finally escaped and even survived. Certainly, the price was that Badgers and others were probably arrested, or simply died. Blackbeard's heart sank, but it was quickly replaced by the joy of the rest of his life. It doesn't matter, as long as Lousy is alive, he can make a comeback. Marine, Chen, Whitebeard, one day, I will make you tremble under my feet. Thief ha 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 ha. Seeing Blackbeard laughing wildly, T-Beard and the others were even more terrified. But soon, Blackbeard stopped laughing and looked at T-Beard and the others with malicious intent. If he wants to make a comeback, he has to find a partner again. T-Beard and the others obviously failed, but it's okay to make do with it for the time being. Thinking like this, Blackbeard grinned and announced the fate of T-Beard and others. Thank you for saving me. In return, you will be angry with me in the future. T-Beard and the others suddenly became dumbfounded. Chapter 229 Whitebeard wants Chen to help. And just when Blackbeard accepted T-Beard and others. Whitebeard's home island here. After the funeral, the emotions of Whitebeard, Ace and others also tended to stabilize. Redhead, thank you very much this time. At the lunch party, Whitebeard picked up the wine and toasted the redhead. He knew very well that in this summit war, like Chen, the redhead and others also helped them a lot. This grace, he also remembered in his heart. It's just that Marco couldn't help but reminded. Dad, you can't drink. All because of this, Whitebeard was full of tubes and even wrapped in bandages. Whitebeard waved his hand. No problem. 35. Seeing Marco, Ace, Joes and others still looked worried. Whitebeard couldn't help grinning. Don't worry, Lousy isn't dead yet. The redhead and Ben Beckman and others saw this, but their faces were a little dignified. Whitebeard's current performance is obviously showing sincerity to them. You must know that when they met Whitebeard in the past, they were all spirited and domineering. But now, Whitebeard presented his weak side to them. This was clearly what Whitebeard meant by showing closeness to them. The redhead said nothing and raised his glass. 117. The same is true for Ben Beckman et al. However, a few people felt a little sad in their hearts. Sengoku, Blackbeard, etc. can see Whitebeard's state, aren't they? At this moment, they are also very clear that this Sea Emperor can no longer fight the sea. Perhaps this gathering was the last time they met. At this time, Chen couldn't help feeling a little emotional when he watched the scene of the 2 Sea Emperors getting together. But that's how the world is. The end of the old era means the rise of a new era. As Whitebeard said in the original book, the ship of the new era has no place for him. Of course, Whitebeard's life was worth it. The ace sentence in the original book is also correct. The era of the great pirates that Roger opened can indeed be called Whitebeard. Because in this era, he is indeed the leader. Finally. The song ends. The redhead said goodbye to Whitebeard and left with Ben Beckman and others. Luffy, next time we meet, we might be rivals. Before leaving, the redhead spoke to the reluctant Luffy. Luffy grinned. Hey, Shanks, I'll beat you. I'm waiting for that day. The redhead was looking forward to it, and the pirate ship he was on finally left Whitebeard's home island. Shortly after leaving, Redhead also quickly received 3 new bounties from Marine. That guy Teach, didn't he die? The redhead narrowed his eyes. Ben Beckman and others also sank. But soon, seeing the other 2 reward lists, the red-haired face showed a smile. Ben Beckman and others laughed too. It's amazing, Luffy, you've already been offered a reward of 400 million Bailey. In the blink of an eye, the little brat of the past has almost caught up with us. And this Chen, who has reached 1 billion Baileys. How do I feel that this Chen's strength is far more than 1 billion Bailey? Seeing Luffy's growth, the redhead and others were very happy. Because they could quite literally watch Luffy grow up. First of all, they know each other's debut in East Blue, and then to the Grand Line and so on. As for Lu Chen, because of the eagle eye, they had already noticed it. And the other party is obviously stronger than they know. Up to now, the redhead and others have also learned a lot of the battle situation of the Summit War. So, they all knew that the reason why the Whitebeard pirates were able to escape this time. The big reason lies in the man called Red Eye. Hearing the discussion of Ben Beckman and others, the redhead couldn't help but look in the direction he came from. Lu Chen, next time I have a chance, I must learn your skills. And just when the red hair and others received the bounty list. Naturally, the Whitebeard pirates also got news. ACBD teach that B************ D is still alive. That B********** D is deadly. HMPH, it's better to be alive, the next time I see him, I will end him with my own hands. Marco and others were all indignant. Even Whitebeard's eyes flashed a cold light. Long ago, the redhead had warned him to watch out for Blackbeard. In fact, he did pay attention, and even persuaded Ace not to go alone to trouble him. But Ace insisted on going his own way, and this was the Summit War. Whitebeard didn't mean to complain about Ace now, but he completely paid attention to Blackbeard. That guy, entangled with so many criminals on the 6th floor of Impel Down, is definitely not small. Right now, he may have suffered heavy losses from Sengoku and others, but judging from that guy's ambition, as long as he doesn't die, he will never disappear. In the future, their Whitebeard pirates will most likely face him again. Just my own body now. Thinking of this, Rao is Whitebeard, who has experienced countless battles and has seen countless winds and waves, and his face cannot help but become dignified. It doesn't matter if he dies, he's alive enough anyway. For One Piece, he has no desire. His dream is to have a family. And obviously, this dream, he has already achieved. Because he already has Ace, Marco and other family members. But because of this, he has more concerns. If he really dies, can Ace, Marco and the others really be able to deal with Blackbeard? There are other equally ambitious 4 emperors. The red hair may also give him face and show mercy to Ace and others, but what about Ant? And Kaido? Thinking of this, Whitebeard couldn't help but feel a little worried. At this moment, Lu Chen and Luffy's reward list also caught everyone's eyes. Luffy, yes, your bounty is about to catch up with me. Lu Chen, you are much taller than me now. As soon as he saw the bounty for the two of them, Ace couldn't help shouting. His bounty, currently only 550 million Bailey, is about to be caught up by Luffy. And Lu Chen directly surpassed him. Seeing such a bounty, Marco and the others were stunned for a while. Especially shocked by Lu Chen's bounty. Because of this amount, it is very close to Marco. Similarly, there is Whitebeard. He glanced at Luffy, then at Lu Chen. At this time, Whitebeard couldn't help but move. Luffy and Lu Chen seemed to be able to relieve his worries. First up is Luffy. His potential is huge, and his current strength is not weak. If something happens to Ace and others, he will definitely not stand idly by. Like this Summit War. In addition, in such a situation, Lu Chen is expected to help. But at this time, what Whitebeard thought of was Lu Chen's training dojo. Chapter 230 Whitebeard's request. Who said you would die? At this time, Whitebeard's eyes fell on Lu Chen, and his heart moved. Whether it is Luffy or Lu Chen, it seems that they can be the help of Ace and others. But obviously, in contrast, it should be Lu Chen's help. Because for now, he is already a lot stronger than Luffy minus. Certainly, most importantly, his training dojo. Regarding Lu Chen's training presence, Whitebeard had never seen it before. But from Ace's mouth, he has already learned. After seeing the training dojo at that time, Ace excitedly reported the situation back to Bai Tuan. Hearing such a situation, Whitebeard also felt incredible. But at that time, he didn't think much about it. But now, Whitebeard suddenly discovered that Lu Chen's training dojo was of great significance to Ace and others. After he's gone, this is the key to getting back to the top for the likes of Ace and Marco. To be frank, captains such as Ace and Marco, although they are already very strong, are still far from competing for the new world. Whether it is Marco or Ace, there is a big gap between them and the real king of the sea. Marco's strength is stronger, but it's only at the level of the Emperor's deputy. As for Ace, although the potential is huge, it is currently weaker than Marco. Other captains, not to mention. With such strength, he may be able to gain a foothold in New World, but he is obviously not qualified to compete with other emperors for hegemony. Of course, maybe give them a few more years and they can get to that point. But it is clear that after the Summit War, it is already a new era of rampage. When he's gone, I'm afraid this runaway situation will be more intense. Whitebeard wasn't sure whether there would be time for Ace and Marco to grow up. So, now Whitebeard thought about Lu Chen's training. If Ace hadn't exaggerated at the time, then obviously. This kind of arena combination that can be used without any consumption can definitely make Ace, Marco and others greatly improve in a short period of time, and even make them reach the level of emperors. If this is the case, Whitebeard can naturally leave this world with peace of mind. Thought here. Whitebeard suddenly straightened his face and said to Lu Chen, thank you very much for the Summit War. But now I want to be cheeky and ask you one more thing. As long as you promise, what do you want in return? As long as I Whitebeard can do it, I will never frown. 35. Hearing Whitebeard's words, Lu Chen raised his eyebrows. Luffy and Ace, who were talking, also looked over. Also Marco et al. Seeing Whitebeard's serious face and hearing what he said, Ace, Marco and the others all frowned. Dad is so serious, obviously it is not a trivial matter. Lu Chen vaguely guessed what Whitebeard was thinking, but didn't say much, just silently said, "What's the matter?" "I heard Ace say, 99 feet. Whitebeard said seriously, "You have a magical ability to create illusions. You call it the training dojo. In that training dojo, you can conjure up any opponent for someone, and you won't get hurt or die in battle." Hearing this, Marco and the others suddenly moved in their hearts. They also heard Ace say it, but Dad suddenly mentioned this, why? Lu Chen nodded. Whitebeard continued, "I want you to help me train Marco and Ace. You are a wise man. The current situation, even if I don't say it, you should be able to see clearly. Marco and Ace, they need to get stronger to face the next storm." Hearing this, Ace, Marco and the others fell silent. Lu Chen secretly said yes. He guessed that Whitebeard's face was so serious, it should have something to do with Ace and the others. Obviously, after the Summit War, the situation in the New World will really change. Let alone the rest. The Whitebeard pirates are about to undergo a great change. To be honest, even if Whitebeard hadn't been injured in Summit War, it wouldn't have stopped the upheaval. Because after the Summit War, no one would believe that Whitebeard was unscathed. Therefore, the forces of the New World will definitely attack the Whitebeard pirates who have a lot of turf support. If Whitebeard really wasn't hurt, that's fine. But he was seriously injured. Under such circumstances, the situation of the Whitebeard pirates will most likely evolve into being attacked by a group. Those ambitious pirates will rush on like hyenas smelling meat. With the strength of Marco and Ace and others, it is obviously not enough to resist such a situation. 0. Ask for flowers. If no changes are made, their fate is not difficult to imagine. Or, desperately resist, and finally die under siege. Or, give up most of the site and settle down. But in either case, it seems to be bad. So at this moment, Whitebeard put down his old face and turned to his younger generation for help. Thinking back to the beginning of the Summit War, Whitebeard even arrogantly wanted to recruit Lu Chen as his son. But now, he had to beg for his sake. Daddy. At this time, Ace, Marco and others naturally understood what Whitebeard meant. Whitebeard was worried about them. Such a move made people such as Ace and Marco feel sour. Just as Summit War intends to sacrifice his life. This qualified father, at this time, is also giving up his dignity to find a way out for them. This kind of situation, like a solitary, made Ace and the others moisten their eyes. The atmosphere that had been relaxed at first turned sad again. Then, Marco said vigorously, "Dad, what are you talking about? With you here, where do we need Lu Chen to train us? If you're worried about your body, you don't have to. 35. I'll cure you, don't forget that I'm the Phoenix Marco." Ace quickly echoed. "Yes, Dad, you don't have to worry about this at all." Diamond Yoja and others also nodded in agreement. Whitebeard waved his hand. "I'm very aware of my physical condition. Marco, you don't have to waste your energy." Speaking of this, the man who stood upright suddenly laughed. "Gu la la la, Lousy lived most of his life and became the strongest man in the world, he has no regrets. Take this opportunity to retire and spend the rest of your life here. You unfilial sons, don't you want Lousy to run around with you?" Ace, Marco and the others fell silent for a while. Luffy also fell silent. Only Lu Chen, looking at this somewhat sad atmosphere, had a strange expression on his face. "Whitebeard, who said you were going to die?" Hearing this, Whitebeard was startled. Ace, Marco and others also looked at Lu Chen in astonishment. What does this mean? Factory. Chapter 231 Share Life. Cure Whitebeard. Whitebeard, who said you were going to die? At this time, Lu Chen naturally understood the meaning of Whitebeard's words. He is dying soon, so I can only ask Lu Chen to take care of Ace, Marco and others. Or train them, at least so they can survive the next storm. Certainly, nothing wrong with Whitebeard's words. He is indeed dying. Originally, he was suffering from injuries. Now dragging the sick body into a top battle of this level, it is no exaggeration to say that the injury is hard to return. Just who said Whitebeard would die? Lu Chen burst into laughter. Seeing Lu Chen smile, Ace and Marco and others were even more surprised. Whitebeard couldn't help but look at Lu Chen suspiciously, a glimmer of hope in his heart, but he couldn't believe it. Or is it Luffy who pointed out at this time, "Lu Chen, do you have a way to treat Uncle Whitebeard?" 7. Rao was another stab at Luffy, and he also saw Whitebeard's weakness and exhaustion. However, he is also very clear about Lu Chen's miraculousness. So when he heard Lu Chen's words, he immediately reacted. Ace was startled. What? Marco and the others were also stunned. Lu Chen, you have a way to heal Dad. At this moment, the eyes of the Whitebeard pirates lit up. But it was vaguely unbelievable. To know, Whitebeard's body, even Marco, who is very good at healing, can't handle it. He is a phoenix with an undead flame. Before Whitebeard, Marco could barely extend his life. But now, Whitebeard is so injured that even Marco can't revolving heaven. In this case, Lu Chen actually has a way to treat Whitebeard. Realizing this, Ace, Marco and the others were all refreshed, and looked at Lu Chen with hopeful eyes. Whitebeard laughed and said, "Lu Chen, don't make fun of me." He really couldn't believe it. After all, even Marco can't do it, why can Lu Chen? Facing Whitebeard's questioning, Lu Chen smiled again. He is a trainer with incredible strength, what can't he do? Thinking of this, a group of 7-color fluorescents suddenly appeared on Lu Chen's body. 99. Marco snorted suddenly. The group of 7-color fluorescent light gave him a very strange feeling. It seems that this group of fluorescents is alive and has life. At the same time, Ace et al. Had a similar feeling. Although they didn't feel as strongly as Marco, they could also feel the extraordinary fluorescence. Luffy's eyes widened in surprise, too. Whitebeard's expression moved. What is this? Lu Chen laughed. You don't know if you experience it yourself. The voice fell. The 7-color fluorescence on Lu Chen's body suddenly jumped and disappeared into Whitebeard's body. Dad. When Marco and the others saw this, they were stunned. Immediately after, something magical happened. The original Whitebeard was sitting on the seat with a pale face. But at this time, his face turned ruddy, and he even stood up directly from his seat. This looks like a recovery from an injury. Marco, Ace and the others moved in their hearts. At this time, Whitebeard's eyes lit up. The group of colorful fluorescent light entered his body, and he did feel that his body relaxed a lot, so he stood up involuntarily. What the hell is that? Immediately, Whitebeard looked at Lu Chen with a flickering gaze. He could feel that the effect of that group of fluorescence seemed to be much stronger than Marco's ability to heal. The corners of Lu Chen's mouth twitched. Life energy. 39. Life energy. Whitebeard murmured. That's right. That group of 7-color fluorescence is life energy. To be precise, it is Lu Chen's life energy. Do not forget. Before Chopper, he had already completed the first stage of the training plan. As a result, not only Chopper has the ability to share life, but also Lu Chen. And now, he is sharing a small part of his life with Whitebeard. This kind of life energy, for living things, is absolutely comparable to any panacea. That's why Whitebeard is much better all of a sudden. You can really cure Daddy. At this time, Ace, Marco and others came back to their senses and surrounded Lu Chen. Those eyes were full of surprises. Obviously, they also saw the effect of colorful fluorescence. What even Marco's immortal flame can't do, Lu Chen can actually do it. At this time, Luffy also looked at Lu Chen with surprise. It is worth mentioning that he has never seen life sharing. Because Chopper has never cast it either. Mainly, after Luffy and others were trained by Lu Chen, they were too powerful. So later, even if Chopper gained the ability to share life, it was useless. Certainly, Luffy and others are not without injuries. But those were all injuries suffered in the illusion created by Lu Chen. In this way, Chopper's ability will be more useless. So until now, Luffy didn't know about life sharing. He was also pleasantly surprised to see that Lu Chen showed off this ability and recovered a lot from Whitebeard's injury. Ace admires Whitebeard so much, if anything happens to Whitebeard, Ace will definitely be very sad. He didn't want to see such a scene again. At this time, Whitebeard also stared at Lu Chen. If the injury can be cured, he may be able to support it for a few more years. At that time, he can really leave this world with peace of mind. However, in the face of the fiery gazes of Ace and Marco, Lu Chen poured a pot of cold water. Don't get excited, my ability is to share my life energy with Whitebeard. So all I can do at the moment is to continue his life as long as possible. What? Hearing this, Marco, Ace and the others were stunned again. Just to prolong life. When Whitebeard heard this, the light in his eyes dimmed. Lu Chen, you don't have to do this, your life is more precious than my old guy. Immediately, Whitebeard shook his head to Lu Chen. If it was to consume Lu Chen's life in exchange for his injury getting better, Whitebeard didn't think it was necessary. 1.3. In fact, Whitebeard felt that compared with Lu Chen should be more helpful to Ace, Marco and others. And he didn't have any reason for Lu Chen to sacrifice his life to save him. Lu Chen suddenly burst out laughing. He really can't share much life energy with Whitebeard at the moment. Because if the life energy is consumed too much, he will also become weak, and even his life will be in danger. But if you wait until Chopper completes this stage of the training plan and truly inherits Zerni's abilities, then there will be no problem. At that time, he could not only cure Whitebeard, but even make him live longer, no problem. Certainly. Besides Chopper, there is actually another way to cure Whitebeard. That is, thinking of this, Lu Chen looked at Marco. Chapter 232 The Awakening Ability of the Phoenix. The thoughts of Whitebeard and others made Lu Chen laugh. He can even save the violent Coon Bear, who is about to be wiped out of consciousness, how could he not save Whitebeard? And the Storm Coon Bear is still a mysterious soul level. And Whitebeard, though serious, was nothing more than a physical injury. Lu Chen's life-sharing ability is able to treat him. Of course, if he wants to completely heal his injury, it is estimated that he will have to wait for Chopper to fully inherit the power of the elf. But besides this method, there is another method. Thinking of this, Lu Chen looked at Marco and smiled. Actually, Marco, you can cure Whitebeard too. What? When Marco heard this, he was stunned and looked at Whitebeard in surprise. When Ace and the others heard the words, they couldn't help but wonder. What does Lu Chen mean? Marco can heal Daddy. But the previous signs clearly proved that Marco's current ability is no longer valid for Dad. Lu Chen also knew that this sentence would definitely make Marco and other O2 people puzzled. So, without waiting for them to ask, he explained again. Of course, with Marco's current ability, it's not enough. If you want to cure Whitebeard, you need a stronger Phoenix ability. Hearing this, Whitebeard's heart moved, and his eyes flashed slightly. You mean? Yes, years. Lu Chen laughed and continued to say to Marco, your current fruit ability should not have reached the level of awakening, right? Awaken. Marco raised an eyebrow, and Ace, Joes and others also showed surprise. As the top forces in the sea, they certainly knew something about the awakening of Devil Fruit's ability. In fact, among them, there are those who have developed the fruit ability to awakening. And that person is Whitebeard. His shock fruit can cause natural disaster like earthquakes, sea earthquakes, and it is precisely because the fruit's ability has been awakened. Now Chen suddenly talks about the fruit awakening, could it be that? Marco also realized something, and suddenly his eyes lit up. You mean, if my Phoenix ability can be developed to the point of awakening, it can cure Dad? Really? Hearing this, Luffy couldn't help but be surprised. He also knew about awakening. In fact, Chen had already instilled the concept of fruit awakening in him at the very beginning of going to sea. Only then, Marco's eyes dimmed again, but my fruit ability has not awakened. I'm also not sure when I'll get to that state. Hearing this, Ace and the others also sank. If Marco's Phoenix ability, after awakening, can cure Dad, it is indeed a great thing. But the problem is that fruit awakening is something that varies from person to person. Even if Whitebeard awakened, his experience would not be of much help to Marco. If Marco wants to wake up, he can only rely on himself. However, it has been decades since he ate the fruit, and he has not yet reached the awakening state. The difficulty of awakening can be imagined. And this is probably the reason why fruit ability awakening is extremely rare. This fruit ability awakening, most likely, is rarer than the owner of Conqueror's Haki. Marco wants to reach the awakening state now, easier said than done. But at this time, Whitebeard stared at Chen whose face remained unchanged, thinking of his request just now. He asked Chen to train Ace at all. So what does he mean? And next, as if to confirm Whitebeard's idea, Chen smiled again. Let me introduce you formally, I'm a trainer, as long as you pass my training plan, it shouldn't be too difficult to reach the awakening state. What? You mean it? 35. Marco was startled when he heard the words, and he couldn't react, but when he came back to his senses, he was ecstatic. Chen nodded with a smile. The situation of the little brother is actually somewhat similar to Luffy. The ability of the Eudemon's fruit is extremely huge, and there is no need to choose other templates. Just keep developing the ability all the way to ultimate, and that's it. However, Pony's situation is a little different from Luffy's. At this time, although he has not yet reached awakening, it is clear that after decades of tempering, he is very close. Even, it is very possible that you will be able to reach the state of awakening with only one footstep away. But this one hit may be able to break through overnight. It is also possible that it will not be able to take decades. And this is probably the reason why Marco is worried. But such a situation is naturally not a problem for Chen. Because he only needs to formulate a training plan, so that Marco can clearly take that crucial step. Chen, then you quickly help him formulate a training plan. At this time, Luffy urged happily. He also understood that Marco, like himself, only needs to develop his abilities. As an experimenter who has completed the training plan and has really developed stronger abilities, Luffy naturally understands what Chen means. Hearing this, the eyes of Ace and the others looking at Chen couldn't help but light up. If what Chen said is true, then Dad can really be cured. Looking at the excited crowd, Chen smiled. Don't worry, maybe, we can first see the effect of the ability of the Phoenix after awakening. In fact, after Marco's Phoenix ability awakened, he was able to cure Whitebeard, which was just a speculation by Chen. He felt very likely to succeed. After all, phoenixes are phantom beasts. And the abilities of the phantom beasts, as we all know, are inconceivable. Luffy's sun god Nika, Kaido's blue dragon, each comes from myths and legends. The ability of this existence, of course, is also absurd and beyond imagination. As the same phantom beast species, no matter how bad the phoenix is, it will not be too bad. Of course, whether this is the case or not, maybe you can get the answer by observing it in the illusion. Just hearing Chen's words, Marco and the others couldn't help but be taken aback. What does it mean? But Luffy realized it instantly and jumped up. Chen, are you going to enter the illusion again? Ace also came back to his senses. In the illusion, can you see the scene after Marco's awakening? Can you bring me in too? Illusion. Could it be that training dojo? 39. I want to meet you too. Josh and others were also eager to move. At this moment, even Whitebeard showed interest. The corner of Chen's mouth twitched. If that's the case, let's bring you all in to see it. 99. The voice fell, and Chen's eyes turned scarlet. Chapter 233 There is no death. The real Phoenix. At this time, Chen's eyes suddenly became scarlet. The Mangekyo mark appeared and slowly rotated, looking extremely strange. What? His eyes? Is this what you call red eye? The faces of Whitebeard and the others showed surprise. At this moment, Chen's voice sounded. Everyone, look at me, relax, don't resist my will. At this time, Chen reminded. Apparently, most of the people here have observation haki. It is not difficult to resist his illusion. Especially above the captain level. If these existences don't cooperate, Chen really can't pull them into the illusion. Not to mention Whitebeard. Although he was seriously injured and ill, and observation haki weakened, it was definitely not something that Chen could easily get psychedelic. So the cooperation of these people is necessary. Hearing this, everyone naturally let go of their resistance, silently letting Chen's pupil power not enter their minds. This moment. Turn around. The environment where everyone is located has undergone dramatic changes. Huh, where is it? Is this the so-called illusion? That's amazing. Luffy was not surprised. Ace is also mentally prepared. Only Marco and the others couldn't help but be amazed. Even Whitebeard looked around in surprise. The environment they are in now seems to be a sky. I don't know what kind of power is supporting them in the air. But soon, Whitebeard and others were attracted by the situation below. 39. Kill him. 35. There were crowds of people, and shouts of killing rose into the sky. Below the crowd, turned out to be a war scene. Looking around, there are casualties everywhere, devastation everywhere. What? Aware of this, Whitebeard and the others couldn't help but wonder. Don't you mean to show them the power of Marco's Phoenix awakening? Why now? They are at the scene of war. Look over there. 35. Everyone was wondering when they suddenly heard Luffy's surprise cry. Following the voice, Whitebeard and the others were startled. At this moment, Marco's eyes widened, revealing a strange color. The direction Luffy indicated was a certain corner of the battlefield. There, a blond man stood leisurely. He has a punk head, an oval face, a pair of dead fish eyes, and a tattoo of the Whitebeard pirates on his chest. It's Marco. Looking at this Marco, the faces of Whitebeard and the others couldn't help showing surprise. Because right beside them, there is also a Marco. At this moment, there are actually two Marcos. But soon, everyone understood. It seems that Marco on the battlefield below should be transformed by Chen. Luffy knew this early on, because he had watched Chen show more of his ability to break apart for Buggy at the time. At that time, another Buggy appeared in the fantasy. This is clearly the case now. In this case, the Phoenix ability possessed by the Marco below should have been awakened. Immediately after, as predicted, as if confirming Luffy's idea. Marco on the battlefield below suddenly grinned. Hey, war will kill people, please stop me. As soon as the laughter fell, Marco's figure leapt forward and turned into a flaming bird amid the billowing green flames. It's Marco's Phoenix form. At this time, Whitebeard and the others naturally came back to their senses, their eyes fixed, and they stared at Marco. After transforming into a phoenix, Marco fluttered his wings and rushed towards the crowd. At that moment, an amazing scene appeared. From Marco, a lot of green flames swept up. Green flames like rain, scattered directly among the crowd. Marco moved lightly. Pineapple Gravel. He recognized the ability move that this Marco used. This move, Pineapple Gravel, to put it bluntly, is a large-scale healing skill. And those blue flames that swept away were his regenerative flames. But at this moment, Marco's pupils suddenly shrank. What did he see? He saw impressively, those undead flames fell in the crowd, and immediately made everyone recover from their injuries. This situation, Marco is not surprising. But what shocked him was that the Pineapple Gravel cast by this Marco was too powerful. You must know that the Pineapple Gravel he is using now is only to treat the crowd a little. But the Pineapple Gravel cast by this Marco made all those who were enveloped by the flames of regeneration recovered from their injuries. What a powerful effect this is. At this moment, Whitebeard, Ace and others were also shocked by the scene in front of them. The effect is so strong. Is this the effect of Marco's ability after awakening? Everyone was amazed. Such a situation is no less than the effect of Marco's healing with regeneration flames. But this amazing effect appeared on everyone who was enveloped by the flames of regeneration. What a powerful healing effect this is. Seeing this, Luffy was also overjoyed. Only Chen's expression remained unchanged. Because he knows that the effect of Marco's awakening ability has not been fully demonstrated. Next moment, an even more amazing scene has happened. After those people were treated, they couldn't stop fighting. Then, the flames of regeneration that fell on them fell to the ground with their movements. At that moment, a touch of greenness appeared quietly. In the blink of an eye, it was as if the spring breeze was blowing across the earth. When a large number of regenerative flames fell on the ground, the battlefield that had been devastated by the war, unexpectedly emerged a large number of plants. Just started, just a little bit. But soon, the whole land is like brand new, wearing the new idea of green and bright. Such a miraculous scene made those fighting people completely calm down. Backquote. What is that? Get Zhao. Is it a legendary god? It seems that our injuries are all healed. Change the world, this is a miracle. People exclaimed, suddenly discarded their weapons, and worshipped the phoenix in midair. Seeing such a situation, Luffy, Ace and the others were immediately stunned. Even Whitebeard was amazed. Certainly, the most shocking thing was Marco himself. He stared blankly in the air, the familiar and unfamiliar phoenix. The flame of regeneration released by this phoenix is actually so powerful. Large-scale super treatment, even the barren land can be brought back to life. This is the effect of the awakening of the phoenix ability. This moment, Marco suddenly came to a realization. Perhaps, this is the real phoenix. There is no death in his presence. Chapter 234 Rescue the Wounded, Marco's training plan. This moment, except for Chen, everyone was shocked. Whitebeard and others, all saw the difference of Marco below. The flame of regeneration he unleashed is much stronger than Marco's. Not only can thousands of people recover from their injuries in an instant, it can even bring the earth back to life. This effect can indeed be called a miracle. Marco even had a sense of it. This is the real phoenix. In other words, the Phoenix ability after awakening is the real Phoenix. Before it, there is no death. Realizing this, Marco was suddenly very pleasantly surprised. If it is said, he was still dubious before, but now after seeing such an awakening power, he can already be sure. After awakening his abilities, he can definitely cure Whitebeard. At this time, Chen also nodded. The ability displayed by this, Marco, is indeed awakened. That incredibly powerful healing ability can't be faked. In addition, after the awakening of the Phoenix's ability, in addition to the significant improvement in its healing ability, its combat power obviously has a lot of bonuses. After all, before this, Marco was a meat shield similar to immune to death. But the flame of regeneration at that time, although it can be reborn, is still limited. To a certain extent, Marco will also be injured. 117. But now it seems that this limit should be eliminated, or infinitely raised. Just imagine, it is useless for others to hit Marco, on the contrary, he can attack each other recklessly. In this way, the improvement of the healing ability is naturally equivalent to the increase of the combat power. It seems that you have already made up your mind. If that's the case, then leave. After confirming that it was correct, Chen smiled at Marco's expression. With a snap, he snapped his fingers. There was another feeling of spinning around. Everyone's eyes flashed, and they came back to their senses, and they have returned to their original place. Came back. The experience just now is so real. It's so real, it's just an illusion. No, it can be considered true, because if Captain Marco is awakened, he should have that kind of power. Everyone sighed at the existence of the illusion, and then looked at Chen with bright eyes. Now that it has been confirmed that Marco's ability is awakened, he can cure Whitebeard. So what we need to do now, of course, is to wake up Marco as soon as possible. Thinking of this, Marco also looked at Chen eagerly. ACBD, Chen, please arrange a training plan for me, no matter what, I can do it. Marco said firmly. That's the beauty of fantasy. Allowing these training subjects to see the power they can obtain after training in advance can greatly enhance their enthusiasm. Certainly, in Marco's situation, even if there is no incentive, it is estimated that he will try his best to complete the training plan. That being the case, there is nothing to say. Chen thought about it. Start customizing Marco's training plan. Open black lens bracket ding. The training plan is completed. Close black lens bracket. Training goal. Awakening the ability of the Phoenix. Open black lens bracket training object. Marco close black lens bracket. Training plan. Rescue the wounded and save the wounded, hang the pot to save the world for 1 year, and require at least 3,000 dying people to be treated. Close black lens bracket. How about it? Luffy looked at Chen's pensive look and couldn't help asking. Whitebeard, Ace, Marco and others also looked at Chen at this time. I don't know what is the training plan that Chen made for Marco. After completing that training plan, can you really live the ability of the Marco in the illusion? Facing everyone's eyes, Chen smiled and said, Marco's training plan is difficult to say, and not easy. 39. The training content is to treat at least 3,000 dying people within a year. Hearing this, everyone immediately looked at each other. Marco was also a little puzzled. Save people, and save 3,000 people. At this time, Ace and others couldn't help but hesitate. As Chen said, this training plan is indeed not difficult. But it's not easy either. For Marco, treating others is actually a very simple matter. After all, he is not only the captain of the 1st Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, but also the chief ship doctor of the Whitebeard Pirates. Over the years, countless people have been rescued. But it is still difficult to save 3,000 dying people. But, after doing this, can Marco's ability be awakened? In fact, Chen also had some doubts about this training plan. Originally, he thought it was cultivation, but he didn't expect that Marco's Phoenix ability would reach the awakening state, and it turned out to be saving many people. Can such an approach really wake up Marco? However, after thinking about it, Chen understood. Marco's Phoenix ability, in fact, the most critical, is his healing ability. And his performance after awakening is also the improvement of his healing ability to an incredible level. In this way, it is not surprising that the system will develop such a training plan. After Marco completes this training plan, he should be able to achieve the same goal as Luffy's current training plan. It's just that Luffy's is a rubber 4th gear, and Marco's is an awakened Phoenix ability. After thinking about this, Chen suddenly understood why Marco hadn't awakened from his dreams for decades. The reason probably lies in the strength of the Whitebeard Pirates. You know, since the death of One Piece Roger, the Whitebeard Pirates have had no decent enemies. Kaido, Ant, Red Hair are also considered strong enemies. But judging from the situation where the New World 4 Emperors are entrenched, Kaido's 3-4 Emperors should rarely conflict with Whitebeard. Even Kaido and others didn't dare to fight Whitebeard, let alone others. So many years after Roger's death, the people who dare to challenge their Whitebeard Pirates are probably Crocodile and Ace. Just these two, it is impossible to cause any casualties to the Whitebeard Pirates. This situation continued, and over time, Marco fell into a situation where his healing abilities were not useful. And in such a situation, it is not surprising that his Phoenix ability has stagnated. So the plan made by the system this time should be to let Marco improve his medical skills. When his medical skills improve to a certain level, he will be able to successfully awaken his abilities. And at this time, Marco obviously understood this with hindsight. His eyes suddenly lit up and he said to Lu Chen, I will complete this training plan. The more Marco thought about it, the more he felt that Lu Chen's training plan was very reasonable. So, at this time, he even thought about where there would be more dying people. Chapter 235, Ace's Poor Performance. The idea of becoming stronger. Seeing that Marco was willing to accept the training program and understood its meaning, Lu Chen nodded immediately. In fact, Marco didn't even have to go to those dying. Because next, the Whitebeard pirates will fall into the Uzumaki. At that time, a large number of pirates will attack them, and even Marine will attack them again. In this way, Marco doesn't have to worry about finding the wounded patient at all. Lu Chen, can you make a training plan for me too? At this moment, a somewhat embarrassed voice sounded in Lu Chen's ear. Lu Chen turned his head to look. It's Ace. It turned out that Ace was also a little moved when he saw that Lu Chen made a training plan for Marco, especially when he saw the power of Marco's Phoenix awakening in the illusion. He also understands that after the awakening of the Phoenix ability, the strengthening of the healing ability is equivalent to the increase of Marco's combat power. At that time, Marco's power is very likely to have approached Whitebeard. Certainly, Ace is not jealous, but wants to become stronger as soon as possible and protect the Whitebeard pirates. Obviously, according to Marco's training plan, even if there is a way to cure Father Whitebeard now, it will still take at least a year. And this year, Whitebeard obviously can't make another shot. Otherwise, without waiting for Marco's ability to awaken, I am afraid that he will not be able to take the first step. But this year, the trials and challenges that the Whitebeard pirates have to face are obviously countless. Even if Ace has Marine Admiral level combat power. But now, he is not even qualified to be the Emperor's deputy. With such power, how can we protect the Whitebeard pirates? So, it was Whitebeard who made the request for them just now. But now, it was Ace who actively wanted to gain strength from Lu Chen. Speak up. Ace is also a little regretful. At that time, when Lu Chen showed him the illusion and the strangeness of the training dojo, he should have asked the other party to make a training plan. In that case, maybe he wouldn't have to lose to Blackbeard. No more summit war behind, and a series of things. Unconsciously, Ace clenched his fists. Luffy immediately said, Lu Chen, you can also help Ace develop a training plan. Don't you like people with potential? Ace, his potential is high. At this time, Whitebeard and others also looked at Lu Chen. After experiencing the illusion just now, they were more convinced of Lu Chen. There is no doubt about the identity of its trainer. It would be great if he could also create a training plan for the Ace. Hearing Luffy's words, Lu Chen couldn't help laughing secretly. In fact, the reason why he participated in Summit War and rescued Ace was not only to give Luffy face, but also to train Ace. As the son of One Piece, how could Ace's potential be low? Even, Lu Chen felt that Ace's potential was higher than Luffy's. Of course, such a potential player, Lu Chen will not let go. In fact, not only Ace, Marco. The entire Whitebeard pirates, except for Whitebeard, who has exhausted his potential, all captain-level characters are Lu Chen Xinyi's training objects. Diamond Yoja, Foil Bister and more. These people can become the captain of the Whitebeard pirates, and there is no doubt that everyone has something. In this way, the possibility that they can complete the training program is naturally much higher than that of ordinary people. Making a training plan for them is equivalent to Lu Chen gaining strength himself. Why not do this kind of thing? Of course, there is no need to hurry this kind of thing, come one by one first. First of all, arrange Ace first. Thinking of this, Lu Chen also said to Ace Kaido, Ace, you should have been training long ago. Otherwise, I wouldn't have lost to Blackbeard. Hearing this, Ace couldn't help blushing. But no wonder Lu Chen would say so. Because of Ace's performance, it was indeed a bit of a stretch. He was 3 years older than Luffy and went to sea 3 years earlier. But on the eve of the Summit War, he was not even a master of the two-color haki. Conqueror's haki is also not proficient in using it, let alone the higher order Conqueror's entanglement. Presumably as Zephyr taught Akainu 3 Admiral. Because of the existence of the ability of the Logia fruit, the physical skills and physical training are ignored. In fact, Ace's talent is not weak at all, it is even amazing. Why? Because according to the intelligence records, when he practiced armament haki, he learned it in just 1 day. What kind of monster speed is this? 0. Ask for flowers. With such a talent, would master observation haki be difficult if he worked harder? There are also abilities such as martial entanglement and tyrannical entanglement. It should not be difficult for him to learn the martial arts in 1 day. If he worked harder, wouldn't he not have lost to Blackbeard, and could even kill Blackbeard, preventing the Summit War from happening? Certainly, such an illogical situation may also have Ace's own considerations. E.g., he didn't want to show too horrible talent, afraid that his performance would affect Whitebeard or Marco's status. Speaking of which, Ace, like Whitebeard, is actually very eager for family. Perhaps this is the reason why Ace is clumsy. But in any case, his current strength has indeed pulled over. Maybe Ace will work hard from now on, and his strength will be quickly raised to the level of the Emperor's deputy in a short period of time. But it is not so easy to reach the top level of combat power. So he turned to Lu Chen for help. Lu Chen didn't mean to complain about Ace either. After he said something flutteringly, he also expressed his thoughts. Do you choose to improve your fruit power, or do you want to choose to acquire new template power? Hearing this, Ace was taken aback. He asked Lu Chen to make a training plan. Of course, he wanted to reach the state of ability awakening like Marco did. As long as his Mera fruit ability is awakened, his combat power should also be greatly improved. But what Ace didn't expect was that Lu Chen did not directly formulate a training plan for him to achieve ability awakening, but instead let him make a choice. Get new template power. What does it mean? On the other hand, when Luffy heard the words, he immediately understood. Ace, Lu Chen means, you can obtain the power of the otherworld strong. Among those otherworld powerhouses, there are existences that are as powerful as gods. No, they are gods. In the end, Luffy's eyes were full of amazement. It's just that Ace heard the words, but he was even more confused. Whitebeard, Marco and others were also surprised when they heard this. What the hell does this mean? Otherworld powerhouse. God, make a plan for Ace, why is it related to these things? Factory. Chapter 236 Insufficient to burn. Natsu appears. Whitebeard, Marco and others were a little puzzled. If Ace wants to train to improve, can he just improve his Mera fruit ability? Why are there other options? Are other powers more suitable for Ace than Mera fruit ability? In fact, Luffy was a little weird about that too. In his opinion, although those otherworld powerhouses are indeed very powerful, even among them, there is no lack of godlike existences. But Ace's Mera fruit ability is also very powerful. It is completely possible to deepen the development level and even awaken like him and Marco. Seeing everyone's puzzled expressions, Lu Chen immediately smiled. Ace's Mera fruit, is it strong? Of course strong. His Mera fruit is definitely not weaker than the abilities of Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru. Even if Akainu's lava fruit is the superior of Mera fruit, 117, cannot cover up the power of Mera fruit. After awakening, the power of Mera fruit's ability is absolutely shocking. But the question is, if Mera fruit can awaken, can Akainu and others not be able to awaken? Let alone the rest. The fruit powers of Akainu and Aokiji must have been awakened. At this point, it can be seen from how they fought for 10 days and 10 nights for Martial Marine. This battle of the Marshals, the Battle of Admiral, directly changed the environment and even the climate of Punk Hazard Island as the dual location. It is possible to cause such a situation, saying that Akainu and Aokiji's abilities have not been awakened, and it is estimated that no one believes. That is to say, Akainu and Aokiji, and even Kizaru, most likely have awakened abilities by now. So now Ace has awakened the ability of Mera fruit, is there any advantage against them? Obviously, there is no advantage at all. Even if Ace's Mera fruit ability is awakened, it is very likely that he will not be able to compete with any of the three admirals. After all, his Haki, also weak 3 admiral too much. Certainly, Ace doesn't necessarily want to use the 3 admiral as an opponent. If Mera fruit's ability is awakened, it can be used to deal with other people. But Lu Chen knew that if Ace wanted to reach the top, he would definitely have to face 3 admirals. If not 3 admiral, there will be other top enemies. If Ace thinks that Mera fruit's ability awakening is enough, then it's a big mistake. The reason why Lu Chen let Ace choose is also for this reason. Even if the Mera fruit ability is awakened, Ace has no advantage against the top powerhouses. By that time, the abilities may not be on the same level, but in terms of Haki, Ace is still a little weaker. Of course, with Ace's talent, it may be possible to quickly increase Haki's strength in a short period of time. But even if he was elevated to the extreme, he would probably only be able to deal with 1 admiral, and it would be impossible to deal with 2 admiral, or even 3 admiral at the same time. In general, Ace's Mera fruit potential is still weaker than Luffy's sun god Nika fruit. So, Lu Chen suggested that Ace choose the power of other character templates. In this way, maybe he can go further in the future, or even surpass Luffy, it is not impossible. Of course, now, Lu Chen is too lazy to talk about it. I believe that after reading the character template power he listed, Ace will understand what he means. Thinking of this, Lu Chen also said, Ace, it's useless to tell you more now, you'd better see it with your own eyes and make a decision. Luffy was instantly refreshed. Lu Chen, are you going to activate the illusion again? Lu Chen smiled and acquiesced. Marco hurriedly said, can you take me? And I want to go too. Joes, Bister and others also spoke quickly. After going into the illusion just now and watching the effect of Marco's Phoenix awakening ability, they were all a little addicted. They were fascinated by being able to see new things in different dimensions. Not to mention this time, Lu Chen seems to be showing some otherworld powerhouses. At this time, even Whitebeard coughed, take me with you if you can. Ha ha, the corner of Lu Chen's mouth twitched. He showed Ace the power of character templates, and of course brought Whitebeard et al. After all, he also plans to have a captain's training plan. Thinking of this, Lu Chen's eyes turned red again. The Mangekyo Sharingan slowly rotated, and the effect of the illusion spread to everyone. Because of the previous experience, this time, without Lu Chen's reminder, everyone consciously cooperated. Turn around. Shifting stars. Once again, everyone came to a different environment. Roar. Almost as soon as everyone entered the environment, a thunderous roar resounded. Whitebeard and others looked suspiciously, and immediately found that the roar came from a giant chimpanzee. This chimpanzee, with wide fangs and a height of 100 meters, has muscles tied all over his body, and at a glance, he knows that it contains extremely terrifying power. Such a giant chimpanzee can be called King Kong. Seeing this King Kong, Whitebeard and the others all froze. Such a volume, if it is a sea creature, may not be terrible. But a terrestrial creature that can grow to such a size is terrifying. What a big chimpanzee. Luffy couldn't help but marvel. Chen smiled. This is the opponent he prepared for this time, the otherworld's strongest, to show his strength. A terrifying land monster with a height of 100 meters. And as the monster appeared, what appeared next was naturally the first otherworld powerhouse that Chen chose for Ace. What sound? My dear, there is such a huge chimpanzee here. 99. At this moment, a voice sounded, and a figure with peach-colored hair caught the eyes of Whitebeard and the others. What? Seeing this, Whitebeard and the others were startled. It was Luffy who reacted immediately. Chen, this is the first otherworld powerhouse you chose for Ace, right? Seeing Chen nodded, Luffy immediately said, this man looks very young, is he also a strong man using flames? 1.3. By now, Luffy has a very good understanding of Chen's routine. Generally speaking, when he formulates training plans for others, he will arrange strong people with similar abilities according to the characteristics of the training objects. For example, Zoro is a swordsman, arranged, and also a Shinigami like a swordsman. And Usopp, who is the sniper, is arranged in relation to the sniper. According to this rule, the otherworld strong template that Chen selected for Ace is of course good at using flames. Hearing this, Chen nodded with a smile. Luffy was right. The person who is appearing now is a strong man who uses flames. His name is Atelia's Nasdragniel. That's right, it's the protagonist from Fairy Tail, Natsu. Chapter 237 Powerful Flame Skills. The first one. At this time, Chen's voice sounded slowly. The Magister of the Fairy Tail Guild, Atelia's Natsu Dragniel, he is good at fire attribute dragon slaying magic. Atelia's Nasdragniel, dragon slayer magic. Hearing Chen's words, Ace and the others were startled again. Whitebeard also frowned, a little confused. But that's okay. Because at this time, one person and one beast below encountered it. Roar. In the dense forest, King Kong looked at this little Natsu with fierce eyes. Without any hesitation, as soon as its huge figure moved, it rushed towards Natsu like a pitch-black tank. Boom, boom, boom. King Kong dashed wildly, with great momentum. When Ace and the others saw this, they couldn't help stunned. As predicted, this King Kong is really fierce. Judging from this astonishing momentum. In the Whitebeard Pirates, some of the lower-ranked captains may not be its opponents. However, when Natsu saw this scene, a smile appeared on his face. Where did the big guy come from? With a chuckle, he suddenly flashed nimbly and jumped to a big tree beside O2, avoiding the impact of King Kong. King Kong failed in a single blow, but he did not give up. The huge pitch-black body turned and continued to pounce towards Natsu. Boom! A tree dozens of meters high was thrown down by him directly. But Natsu was still unscathed and kept beating like a monkey walking through the forest. Black King Kong roared angrily, but there was nothing he could do about Natsu. But soon, Natsu seemed tired, jumped directly from a big tree to the ground. Seeing this, He Jingdong's eyes suddenly lit up. Immediately afterwards, rumbling footsteps sounded. The dark figure as huge as a mountain was crushed again. This time, Natsu didn't choose to avoid it, but a mysterious aura emanated from his body. Perceiving this aura, Whitebeard and the others were all stunned. Luffy also widened his eyes, feeling abnormal. Next second. Natsu's chest swelled suddenly, then opened his mouth, and suddenly vomited. Roar of the fire dragon. He folded his hands and placed them in front of his mouth, and a red mysterious magic circle suddenly appeared. Boom. Immediately afterwards, under the surprised gazes of Whitebeard and the others, a strong flame erupted from Natsu's mouth. Roar. Black King Kong shouted again. But this time, it wasn't a scream of anger, but a cry of pain. Under the blast of flames, its huge figure was directly knocked back, and flames were still billowing on its body. The scorching flames made King Kong cry out in pain, and his figure hurriedly rolled to the ground. What a strong flame. Isn't this person also a Mara fruit capable? No, it seemed like you said it was Dragon Slayer magic. At this time, Marco and the others were amazed. Natsu's fire dragon roar just now, in their opinion, is very similar to Ace's fire fist. Subconsciously, they all thought that Natsu also had Mara fruit, but they were stunned when they thought of Chen's introduction just now. At this time, Ace was also greatly surprised. This Natsu is really a fire attribute powerhouse. But if it's just that, there's no need for him to train and learn, right? At this time, Chen seemed to see through Ace's thoughts and smiled, it's not over yet. Immediately after, as if to prove Chen's statement, Black King Kong fell to the ground and rolled, finally extinguishing the flames. When Natsu saw this, he laughed again. It seems very resistant to beating. 5. If that's the case, then I'm welcome. The voice fell, and a powerful aura emerged from Natsu. As soon as he clenched his fist, he rushed towards the Black King Kong. Boom. The flames rise again, but this time the flame was condensed on his right fist. As Natsu ran, the flames on his right fist also brought out a band of fire. Like an electric light flint, Natsu approached Black King Kong in an instant. Ace's pupils shrank suddenly. He was surprised to find that the flames emerging from Natsu's fist at this time actually added a powerful kinetic energy to him. Suddenly, Natsu's speed greatly increased. The speed, as well as the flame, burst out at the same time, and its power can be imagined. The iron fist of the fire dragon. As predicted. When Natsu's fist bombed out, the huge body of Black King Kong, which was hundreds of meters, was directly knocked into the air. Boom. Several trees were knocked down. What a terrible attack. When Marco and the others saw this, their expressions froze. Certainly, Black King Kong was created by Chen, and it is not so easy to do. Its characteristic is that it is resistant to beating. As a result, the Black King Kong, who was blown away, quickly got up again and let out an angry roar. Roar. Immediately after, it took another stride, trying to counterattack Natsu. Natsu was not angry but happy, and continued to show his skills. The horn of the fire dragon. Wrapped in terrifying flames, Natsu knocked the Black King up again with a small blow. The wing strike of the fire dragon. 35. It was followed by 2 slaps wrapped in flames, making Black King Kong painful. The claws of the fire dragon. Then there's the kick of the flames. The flaming elbow of the fire dragon. And the elbow of fire. At the scene of the bombardment, everyone except Chen was shocked. Even Whitebeard is no exception. At this time, they even had an illusion. The Black King Kong with a ferocious appearance and a huge volume is not a ferocious beast. The real beast, 117, is this Natsu. He is a humanoid Tyrannosaurus with fire attributes, madly abusing Black King Kong. At this time, Ace was naturally shocked. He completely changed the concept just now. This Natsu is really strong. His fire ability is not much stronger than Ace's Mara fruit ability. But the combat power he showed was beyond the reach of Ace. And the key to this is, his flame ability was used in a marvelous way. The powerful flame ability is actually combined with physical skills and physical fitness to form a fierce and domineering move. This combination is not at all incompatible, but complements each other. Originally, Ace felt that he was already very powerful in the use of the flame ability. But now it seems that it is still very shallow, even superficial. In the past, he used the Mara fruit ability alone. The same is true of gymnastics. But never thought of using the two together. Thinking of this, Ace was shocked. Natsu's performance seemed to open the door to a new world for him at once. Behind that door, is the scenery that Ace yearns for. At last, under the shocking gaze of Ace, Natsu ended the battle with a red lotus fire dragon fist. Black King Kong, like a small mountain, fell into the flames, scorched black. Chapter 238 The Terrifying Dragon Killing Magic. Bang! Black King Kong's huge charred body fell down. Ace couldn't help but lose his voice. Whitebeard and others were also shocked. They were shocked that it wasn't that Natsu could defeat Black King Kong. It's Natsu's use of fire. At this time, of course, they also saw Natsu's amazing use of fire skills. To be frank, judging from the situation just now, the size and power of the flames released by Natsu could be achieved by Ace's Mara fruit. But the power he really broke out with the help of the flames was far beyond Ace. As the previous illusion said, Natsu's combination of fire and physique is really like a humanoid Tyrannosaurus with fire attributes. Bravo! This guy named Natsu. At this time, Luffy couldn't help but marvel. He admires Ace very much. He has felt that Ace is very powerful since he was a child, and he still has this feeling until now. But he also had to admit that he also used the flame ability. Natsu is definitely much stronger than Ace. At this moment. Ace himself agrees with this. He is indeed not as good as this Natsu. The opponent's use of flames is too clever. For example, the iron fist of the fire dragon. It turned out to be using the power of flames to increase its own speed, thus making a stronger attack. There is also the flame elbow of the fire dragon, which also uses the flame to accelerate and erupts a powerful flame elbow. The same is true of the fire dragon's claws and other moves. The combination of flame and physical art can enhance the power of both and complement each other. Especially the last red lotus fire dragon fist, it simply made Ace realize it. In fact, the so-called red lotus fire dragon fist is nothing more than wrapping flames around the fist and attacking the enemy. Such a move, Ace can also easily do it. But the problem is, Ace has never tried this before. In the past, he either simply punched, or used the Mara fruit ability to directly explode a huge fire fist. But I have never tried this method of wrapping flames around the fist and attacking the enemy directly. Ace suddenly realized that this method may be the key to his ability to match the top powerhouses. Take Aokiji as an example. Whether it is a simple punch, or a huge fire fist, it seems that it can't hurt him. But if it is a fist wrapped around flames, then it seems to be able to restrain him. If you add the armament color, it's just perfect. At that time, he could not only attack Aokiji's body, but also cause a burn effect while attacking. Of course, this method should still be useless against Akainu. But if it is used against Aokiji, or Kizaru, it seems to be quite effective. For other top powerhouses, or the same. Thinking of this, Ace's eyes light up. At this time, seeing Ace's expression, Chen couldn't help nodding secretly. It seemed that Ace finally understood his weakness. In fact, in Chen's view, Natsu's method of using flames is the correct development direction for flame abilities. Especially for this pirate world. You know, in this world, there is a saying of elementalization. That is to say, no matter how powerful Ace's flame might be, as long as the opponent enters elementalization, his flames can't hurt the opponent. But if it is a flame plus body technique, it is different. Especially, with armament hockey, it's even more different. Think about it now. In the original book, the reason why Akainu's fist can hit Ace also causes burns to it. Presumably, Akainu has not only annotated lava on his fist, but also covered armament hockey. Akainu, the Marine Admiral, was clearly one step ahead of Ace, realizing what was the right direction to develop the flame ability. Only in that way can you truly be among the top ranks. Certainly, Chen took a lot of trouble, but it's not as simple as making Ace the top. The effect he wants is that Ace can defeat the top powerhouse. And according to the power that Natsu is currently exerting, it is actually somewhat difficult to defeat the top-level powerhouses in the pirate world. 5 or 5 at most. Therefore, in this way of combining flames and physical techniques, it is necessary to enhance the power of flames. And this, Natsu has obviously done it. It's just that he hasn't had time to display it yet. Well, this Black King Kong is still a little weak. Chen was silently dumbfounded. Originally, he thought that this Black King Kong was enough for Natsu to toss and perform all his moves. But now it seems that there are still some shortcomings. If that's the case, then get another one, stronger. Chen thought about it. Next moment, Natsu's expression changed and he looked to the other side. I saw the forest in this direction, and suddenly another golden shadow appeared. This is a giant beast that is bigger than Black King Kong. With a height of more than 300 meters, he is also an orangutan, but his body is covered with golden hair, and he looks more powerful than Black King Kong. Perhaps this giant beast can be called a real King Kong. Seeing this, Whitebeard and others were all startled. Ace and Luffy's expressions froze. There's even a bigger orangutan. However, Natsu showed a smile. Hit the small one, did the big one come? Then do it all for you. The roar of the Flame Dragon King. This time, Natsu opened his mouth and spit, and the flames erupted again. Boom. But this time the flames made Whitebeard and the others' faces change slightly. Ace even stared. Luffy also opened his mouth wide. I saw that the flames that Natsu erupted this time were much more terrifying than before. Compared with Ace's fire fist, it is even more insignificant. Boom. At that moment, it was like a small nuclear explosion. The entire forest was destroyed by the violent flames. But after the flames, the huge King Kong crossed his arms and stood still on the spot. At this moment, its body is only slightly burned, and its defense is so terrifying. When Ace and the others saw getting Zhao like this, they couldn't help but shuddered in their hearts. Natsu still smiled. Next, without 2 words, he launched a stronger attack. The Purgatory of the Flame Dragon King. The Fist of the Flame Dragon King. In the end, even cast the dragon-slaying mystical magic. The terrifying flames, like a 10th-level natural disaster, completely destroyed the entire area. That is to say, Chen and others belong to the mental state, otherwise, I am afraid they will be affected. Seeing such a terrifying situation, Marco and other captains, and Luffy all gasped. Very scary. Too strong. Unimaginable. 95. Whitebeard looked solemn. This otherworld's powerhouse is really amazing. Ace, on the other hand, was completely stunned. Flame ability, can it be so powerful? Chen immediately explained with a smile. This is the so-called Dragon Slayer magic energy. Chapter 239 Yamamoto Yuanyujai Chonguo, a knife. This is the so-called Dragon Slayer magic. Hearing Chen's words, everyone was startled. Dragon Slayer magic. In fact, at the very beginning, Chen said this word. But they were quickly attracted by Natsu's performance and didn't think much of it. But at this time, Chen's words once again attracted everyone's attention. Chen, Dragon Slayer magic, what is it? 39. Luffy couldn't help but wonder. Ace and others also looked at Chen. Chen smiled and explained, magic is actually the power system of Natsu's world. 99. Well, you can probably understand it is an existence similar to Devil Fruit's ability. As for dragon-slaying magic, it is a more powerful type of magic. This type of magic can even defeat and destroy dragons. Hearing Chen's explanation, everyone was suddenly stunned. I see. Magic is something like Devil Fruit. No wonder Natsu is also able to use fire abilities similar to Ace Mara Fruit. But at the end, Ace and others were still shocked. The magic that can destroy dragons. Dragon's words. At this moment, in addition to Luffy, Whitebeard, Ace and others all thought of Kaido. Kaido is the dragon of the pirate world. Could it be that Natsu's dragon-slaying magic is enough to defeat Kaido at 117? Immediately after, as if to confirm this, the battle on the field has come to an end again. Under the abuse of Natsu's dragon-killing mystical magic, King Kong fell to the ground and could not get up again. Seeing this, Ace was once again shocked by Natsu's flame ability. Chen smiled and shook his head. In fact, there are still many abilities that Natsu has yet to display. For example, the Thunder Flame Dragon ability combined with thunder and fire. But it is no longer necessary. I believe that its current performance has completely conquered Ace. Pat. Chen snapped his fingers, and Natsu and the picture below were frozen. Immediately he looked at Ace and asked with a smile, how is it? Ace was a little excited. Kaido, it's very strong. By now, he has understood why Chen suggested that he choose those otherworld strong template powers. Because it is really necessary. If it's just to develop his Mara Fruit ability, he may indeed be able to increase his strength, but it is very limited. But if he gets the power of Natsu, he is very likely to quickly advance to the ranks of the top powerhouses, and even be able to defeat the top powerhouses. Knowing this, Ace naturally knew how to choose. Thinking of this, Ace smiled and said, Lu Chen, I choose these otherworld powerhouse templates. With your training program, can I really master this kind of strength? Hearing this, Whitebeard and others were not surprised. If they were replaced, it is estimated that they would also choose to do so. Lu Chen is naturally not surprised. Sure. Immediately he gave Ace an affirmative answer. As long as he completes his training plan, Ace can of course get the Natsu power as a template like everyone else. Certainly, it is impossible for Master Natsu, who wants to ascend to the sky with the mysterious power of dragon-slaying magic. Ace can only be obtained from the initial dragon-slaying magic. However, even if he only obtained the preliminary dragon-slaying magic, but through this, he realized the skill of using flames like Natsu, and I believe that Ace will be greatly improved. Next, Lu Chen added, but don't rush to choose. Next, there are otherworld powerhouses. Hearing this, Ace was taken aback. Whitebeard and others were also startled. And also, Luffy is not surprised by this. He knew that in general, Lu Chen would give 4 templates for others to choose. Probably the same this time. Ace, let's move on. 35. Luffy pulled Ace along. Lu Chen nodded with a smile. According to the past practice, it is indeed to arrange 4 template characters and let Ace choose. But this time, Lu Chen just prepared 3 template characters. Mainly because the power of Ace itself is already very strong. In the other world, there are many people who are stronger than him, but more are actually weaker than him. So Lu Chen only picked out 3. Certainly, even if there are only 3 people, the letter ACBD can satisfy the Ace. In addition to Natsu, the next 2 also have great backgrounds. Lu Chen snapped his fingers again. The area below immediately began to refresh. The forest reappeared, and the giant beast King Kong, which was more than 300 meters high, also came back to life. Only Natsu suddenly disappeared. But soon, in a corner of the forest, an old man dressed in white and leaning on a wooden cane appeared. What? Almost at the moment when the old man in white appeared, Whitebeard's expression changed. Then the existence of the so-called strongest man in the world, his face became solemn. Because from the old man, he actually felt a strong threat. At the same time, Luffy, Ace, Marco and others were also deterred by the momentum of the old man in white. At this moment, Lu Chen's voice sounded again. Gote 13, the captain of the first team, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni, Zanpakuto name, Ryujin Jaka. Yamamoto Yuanyujai Chonguo. Whitebeard and the others recited the name silently, and their expressions became more solemn. Because with the appearance of this old man, the originally irascible King Kong actually had an anthropomorphic look of fear on his face at this time. Obviously, this giant King Kong also felt a strong danger from the Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni. This is an extremely scary character. It was Luffy, who suddenly raised his eyebrows. Zanpakuto. The word was familiar to him. The Kaden Kyokutsu obtained by Zoro seems to be Zanpakuto too. Realizing this, Luffy couldn't help but wonder. This time, how did Lu Chen create a strong swordsman? Lu Chen, Zanpakuto's words, if he should use a sword, is this person's strength suitable for Ace? Luffy couldn't help asking suspiciously. Lu Chen suddenly smiled. You will understand after watching it. It was at this time. The following Yamamoto Yuanyujai Chonguo also discovered the existence of King Kong. There is actually an evil obstacle here, let this old man come to eradicate you. Saying so, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni approached King Kong step by step, and immediately drew a long sword from the wooden crutch. This is a purple hilt that looks like an ordinary long sword. But in the next second, except for Lu Chen, everyone's faces changed wildly. Torch. Yamamoto Genryusai murmured and suddenly pulled the blade out of the scabbard. At that moment, along with the blade being pulled out, there was actually a violent flame. The flames swept out like a tornado, and instantly turned into a flame barrier, wrapping King Kong's huge figure. Roar. King Kong screamed, but the screams stopped abruptly. Boom. The flames subsided. The huge beast King Kong did not even leave ashes, it just evaporated. Whitebeard's pupils shrank suddenly. Marco, Ace, Luffy and others, one counts one, all stunned. A knife. With just one knife, the King Kong will be solved. Chapter 240 The strongest flame system Zanpakuto, the temperature of the sun. Boom. Huge flames rolled. A knife. With just one knife, the giant beast was solved. Luffy was shocked. Only then did he understand. The old man in white named Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni in front of him is also a strong man with the ability to fire. At the same time, Ace and others were instantly stunned by the flame power displayed by Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni. Especially Ace. He widened his eyes and stared at this scene dumbfounded. The flame released by Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni, in an instant, vaporized a giant beast more than 300 meters long. What concept is this? What kind of fire power is this? At this time, Lu Chen was not surprised when he saw the situation where King Kong was evaporated. It is believed that Ace et al. Have noticed the power of the flame ability of Yamamoto Genyazai Shigekuni. To be more precise, it is actually the temperature. Terrible temperature. Yamamoto Genryuzai Shogun, whose Zanpakuto Ryujin Jaka, is the oldest and strongest Zanpakuto in the Shinigami World's hot series. Its Shikai temperature is equivalent to the surface of the sun. The temperature of Bankai is equivalent to the core of the sun. It is no exaggeration to say that such a temperature can melt everything in the world in an instant. Speak up. Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni, the power of this character, Chen originally wanted to recommend it to Zoro. But later I felt that the kendo pursued by Zoro was still different from Yamamoto's power. As for why it is now pushed to Ace. Of course, because both are strong flames. Although Yamamoto's kendo is not weak, his most powerful, of course, is the terrifying power of flame. As for Ace, although he does not know kendo, as long as he obtains some of the flame power of Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni, he can traverse the world of pirates. Not to mention the rest, in turn restraining Akainu's lava, there is absolutely no problem. Thinking of this, Chen immediately introduced it in detail. This Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni, in his world, is also the existence of the ceiling of combat power. Especially his Zanpakuto, Ryujin Jaka, has the strongest attack power of all Zanpakuto. Ace, you should have seen Zoro's Kaden Kyokutsu, this Ryujin Jaka, the attack power of light theory, is countless times that of Kaden Kyokutsu. 5. Hearing this, Ace was shocked again. For Zanpakuto, he is indeed not too unfamiliar. He also met Zoro's Kaden Kyokutsu when he met Luffy before. But it was for this reason that he was even more shocked. In his opinion, Kaden Kyokutsu is already very powerful, but Ryujin Jaka is infinitely more powerful than that. However, as far as Ace knows, the acquisition of this Zanpakuto seems to be very harsh. This Yamamoto Genyazai Shigekuni, it should be very difficult to gain his power, right? 35. At this time, Ace asked hesitantly. Chen nodded and said bluntly, it can be said that it is as difficult as the sky. Before Zoro, it was extremely difficult to gain the power of Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni. This, for Ace, is naturally the same. If Natsu is used for comparison, it is definitely much easier for Ace to obtain Natsu's power than Yamamoto's power. All because Ace already has a good physique and foundation in physical skills. Coupled with its fire ability, it shouldn't be too difficult to complete the training plan to gain Natsu's power. But Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni is different. While his flame ability is very powerful, he is also a strong swordsman. In other words, if Ace wants to gain the power of Yamamoto Yuanyujai, he has to work hard in kendo. And obviously, the current Ace should have no kendo attainments, or even a blank. In this way, just making progress in kendo stumped him. Certainly, One Piece Roger, with his extraordinary swordsmanship, or his terrifying kendo talent, was also inherited by Ace. But even so, it is not an easy task for him to start anew in kendo now. In Chen's view, if you want to inherit the power of Yamamoto Yuanyujai Chonguo, you must at least have a swordsman-level kendo strength. Janao is not so easy to be promoted. Otherwise, the number of swordsmen would not be so rare. So in one sentence to sum up the difficulty of Ace wanting to gain the power of Yamamoto Yuanyujai, that is difficult to reach the sky. Ace was stunned. Marco and the others also looked at each other in dismay. Luffy asked strangely. Chen, this old man is so strong, if it is so difficult to inherit his power, why do you choose him as Ace's template power? 0. Ask for flowers. Hearing this, Ace couldn't help but look at Chen with some doubts. Chen smiled. Luffy's words are the key to asking. Why is it so difficult to push Ace to choose? To be honest, is it difficult to obtain Yamamoto's power from Yuanyujai Shigekuni? Of course it's hard. Even if it is the first to obtain a fiery blade and perform Shikai, it is as difficult as reaching the sky. Not to mention Bankai after that. It is almost impossible to obtain the power of Bankai that is flaming like a blade. But why? Chen still let Ace watch and choose Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni. Of course there is a reason. What is the reason? Chen smiled mysteriously. About this reason, it is better for Ace to find out. 35. Let's see more of the power of Yamamoto Genryuzai Shigekuni. The voice fell, and Chen snapped his fingers again. Immediately, King Kong was resurrected again, and the number even increased. In the blink of an eye, dozens and hundreds of meters of giant King Kong surrounded Yamamoto Yuanyujai heavy country. But in the face of this scene, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni's aged face showed no fear. Hot hell, he opened and closed his lips, and read the mysterious shower. On the seemingly ordinary blade, a terrifying flame rises again. Next moment, a shocking scene has appeared. The flames bursting out of the flowing flames directly formed dozens of pillars of fire that reached the sky, and unexpectedly surrounded the King Kong people in turn. Immediately after, amid the terrified roar of King Kong Gate, the pillars of fire gathered to the sky and exploded. Boom! Amidst the earth-shattering explosion, a sea of fire and hell formed. The King Kongs were instantly vaporized. Even the surrounding forest has turned into nothingness. Such a devastating scene made Ace and the others forget to breathe. This is the strongest flame-type Zanpakuto. This terrifying flame ability is too foul. In the view of Ace and others, this kind of flame ability, if placed in the world of pirates, not only can the island be destroyed in an instant, it is even very possible that even the sea will be evaporated. Terrible. Factory Chapter 241 Bankai Residual Fire Sword, Stuff. At this time, even Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world, couldn't help but look at Yamamoto's power. Because he shot at his peak, it is probably this kind of power. Even in comparison, it may be that the ability of this Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni is even more terrifying. After all, his is a shock. And this Yamamoto Yuanyujai Chonguo is a much stronger flame than Ace. At this time, Chen glanced at everyone's shocked expressions, and couldn't help laughing. At present, what Yamamoto Genryuzai Shigekuni has released is only the power of Shikai. Immediately, he glanced at Ace again, and found that the other party was still untouched, and immediately thought. It seems that Ace is still not enlightened. That being the case, go ahead. Along with Lu Chen's thoughts, the illusion changed again. Forest reappears. A large number of giant King Kong, 117, appeared around again. This time, it is not as simple as dozens, but hundreds, or even countless. Roar. In the roar of anger, densely packed King Kong appeared around Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni, surging like a tidal wave. So much. Very scary. This fantasy is too scary. At this time, Marco and others couldn't help but be shocked. King Kong with a height of more than 300 meters, such a land behemoth, is equivalent to the sea kings in the sea. In other words, the current situation is equivalent to Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni being besieged by countless sea kings. In such a situation, apart from Whitebeard at his peak, I am afraid that no one present can handle it. However, in the face of such an astonishing situation, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni's aged face was still intact. But the next moment, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Chonguo lifted his eyelids, and a terrifying cold light appeared in his eyes. No matter how many evil obstacles there are, it is impossible to turn up the wind and waves. 35. Remnant Fire Sword East, Rising Sun Blade. Saying this, he took off the white clothes on his body, revealing a sturdy body, and then slowly raised the flame in his hand like a blade. Whitebeard and the others were immediately surprised. Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni seems to be old-fashioned, but his body is so strong. Of course, what shocked them the most was the flaming fire at this time. I saw this Zanpakuto belonging to Yamamoto Yuanyujai Chongu, and suddenly there was a faint smoke. Whitebeard and others could not help shrinking their pupils. At this moment, there was obviously no flame rising, but they all felt an extremely terrifying aura. That seemingly unremarkable fire like a blade seems to have become the most terrifying weapon in the world. Realizing this, Whitebeard couldn't help but sigh. And next, as if confirming the thoughts of the people. Facing the King Kong attacking first, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Chonguo held the flame like a blade and waved it lightly. Puff! A horrific scene appeared. The Vajra slammed into it, and as a result, with a light stroke of a flaming blade, its calf was directly broken. The incision is as smooth as a mirror, but it is scorched and pitch black. What? When everyone saw this, they were immediately shocked. The King Kong was stunned, and then screamed wildly. But in the next second, as Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni waved his knife again, the screaming stopped abruptly. It died, and it died in a very strange way. Broken calf, cracked stomach. However, the death of this King Kong did not make the King Kong retreat. More King Kong rushed up. However, Yamamoto Genryuzai Shigekuni was still wielding the fire like a blade in an understatement. One knife, two knives. Wherever the blade passes, there is nothing. The wounds of the King Kong who were hit did not even appear blood, but left an incomparably smooth and scorching black. I understand. The temperature of that sword has become very high. Seeing this, Whitebeard and the others finally understood. At this time, the fire was like a blade, and it was accompanied by high temperature. It is precisely because of this that such a terrifying situation occurs. Seeing this, Lu Chen immediately laughed. Whitebeard et al. Have guessed the trick. But they will never know what a terrifying temperature is attached to the flames at this time. There is no doubt that at this time, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Chonguo has already opened the flaming bankai. Therefore, the temperature of the flame released by the flowing fire blade at this time is equivalent to the core of the sun. However, this terrifying flame, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni did not release it, but restrained it on the tip of the knife. In this way, the things that are hit by the flames will naturally vaporize and disappear as if they were erased. And this is the so-called residual fire sword East, Rising Sun Blade. It is no exaggeration to say that the fire at this time is like a blade, and it already has the effect of cutting everything. Although these giant diamonds have thick skin and thick meat, in front of such a fiery blade, they will not be much better than a piece of butter that encounters a hot knife. So Zero. There is also the present scene. Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni waved fire like a blade and directly started the massacre. However, due to his size, Yamamoto's killing speed was still a bit slow. This also led to the fact that some King Kong had attacked Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni. Roar. 99. The death of the companion also caused the rage of the King Kongs. 2 or 3 King Kong swung giant fists from the back toward the Yamamoto Yuanyujai heavy country hammer. In the face of the attack from the back of the King Kong, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni seemed to be unaware and indifferent. Seeing such a situation, Whitebeard and the others suddenly became curious again. They want to know, this Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni is super strong in attack, but what will happen in defense? As a result, what shocked them happened again. As soon as those King Kong approached, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni's sturdy body exuded a faint smoke. At the moment when the smoke rose, those King Kong who attacked from behind all screamed loudly. Immediately after, their bodies ignited spontaneously, and in a very short period of time, they turned into ashes and disappeared. This scene looked extremely shocking. It was as if their existence had been eliminated by invisible gods. Within 10 meters in diameter of Yamamoto Yuanyujai, there will soon be no trace of King Kong. This, 1.3. Is it high temperature again? 99. But what kind of high temperature does it take to melt such a giant beast? At this time, Whitebeard and others saw the clue again. But they couldn't help but be shocked again. When Lu Chen saw this, he nodded secretly. He knows this trick. It is Yamamoto Genyazai Shigekuni's defensive move. Remnant Fire Sword West, Remnant Sun Prison Clothes. Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni has few defensive moves, even only this one. And the principle of this trick is actually that Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni turned his own Terror Reiatsu into a 15 million degree flame. In this state, he is also as hot as the sun. Therefore, those King Kong who approached in an unsuspecting state would of course turn into fly ash in an instant. Chapter 242 South and North, Sword and Fire. A large number of King Kong approached Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni, but were turned to ashes by the terrifying high temperature. Such a scene shocked Whitebeard and the others. However, Lu Chen knew that this was not the limit after Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni Bankai was flaming. In addition to the east and west, there are also south and north. Next, as predicted, after killing a large number of King Kong, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni murmured, and suddenly plunged his hand into the ground. Remnant Huo Tai Dao South, Huo 10 trillion dead burial array. A murmur-like incantation sounded. Seeing this, Whitebeard and the others were surprised again. What is he going to do? I stuck my sword on the ground. It feels like a powerful move again. Ace stared at Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni's movements, his eyes moved slightly. Luffy's eyes widened too. Lu Chen smiled and said nothing. Then, an amazing scene appeared again. The ground was surging, and huge dark creatures crawled out of the ground. What? Oh too, what is that? Marco and the others shrank their pupils. I saw that those dark creatures turned out to be huge black skeletons. These skeletons, each one, were about the size of King Kong. Looking closely, it seems that it is exactly what those King Kong looked like after they died. Seeing such a scene, not to mention Marco and the others, even those violent King Kongs were stunned. Immediately afterwards, countless giant skeletons converged into a jet black tide, which in turn rushed towards the surrounding King Kong. Roar. The King Kong roared furiously. But soon, fear was revealed in these roars. Those huge skeletons are extremely powerful, and they are not afraid of casualties. When they fight, they are even crazier than them. The most important thing is that after their death, their companions will turn into huge skeletons and join the battle group after they fall to the ground. Under this situation, the King Kongs began to retreat step by step. At last, the King Kongs were even more frightened, and there was a phenomenon of fleeing. Seeing this, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni pulled out the residual fire sword that was stuck on the ground. But this time, he used another trick. Remnant Fire Sword, North, the world is ashes. A sword was swung out, and in silence, a Vajra that was fleeing in the distance was immediately cut off in the middle. Before this King Kong could show a painful expression, his consciousness quickly disappeared. Immediately after, another knife, and another Vajra annihilation. Seeing this, Whitebeard and the others were shocked again. Still the terrifying high temperature. But this time, the release of Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni was a long-range attack. However, this long-range attack is silent, and the end is terrifying. This time, it is clear that the King Kong's decadence. It's a foregone conclusion. However, just when Whitebeard and the others thought it was about to end, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni suddenly took a deep breath, held the sword in both hands, and slowly raised it high. I will not let you have the opportunity to harm the world. 99. Lu Chen raised his eyebrows in anticipation. Whitebeard and the others sank in their hearts and shuddered for no reason. Whitebeard, who was headed by him, was clearly shocked in his eyes. At this moment, the momentum of Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni suddenly rose to a terrifying level. Time seemed to stand still. Everyone held their breath. The next second, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni swung the residual fire sword in his hand. The Sword of Fire. At that moment, a terrifying flame surged out from the blade again. Boom. The sound of explosions is incessant. At this moment, accompanied by the terrifying sound of explosion, the terrifying explosion of mighty energy, starting from the body of Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni, dashed away with a bang. Stronger and faster than a volcanic eruption, the explosion soon swept the audience. Those King Kongs who were swept away by the blasting flames turned to ashes without even uttering a word. In the blink of an eye, the King Kongs in the entire illusion were wiped clean by the blasting flames. Seeing this scene, everyone except Lu Chen lost their voices. Ace completely froze in place. Luffy opened his mouth too. And Marco and the others were stunned. Immediately they came back to their senses and couldn't help looking at Whitebeard in unison. In the eyes of Marco and others, his father, Whitebeard, has always been the strongest existence. But now, they were shocked to discover that the old man in front of him seemed to have more power than Whitebeard. At this time, Whitebeard was actually a little ashamed of himself. In terms of physique and ability, the old man in front of him seems to be much stronger than him. His vibrations can destroy everything. But this old man's flame can destroy everything. Who is stronger and who is weaker, it is clear at a glance. Is Yamamoto Genyazai Shigekuni. Whitebeard took the name down. Snapped. At this moment, Lu Chen snapped his fingers and everything stopped. How about it? Immediately, Lu Chen looked at Ace with a smile. Ace came back to his senses and couldn't help but smile. This senior is really too strong. Although Ace admires Whitebeard very much, he also has to admit that the Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni is indeed stronger than Whitebeard. But because of that, Ace smiled wryly. The previous Yamamoto Yuanyujai Chonguo had already made him feel unable to climb high, but now, this feeling is even stronger. Ace doesn't know how hard he has to work to be like Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni. This moment, even the one-strand Luffy knows the difficulty of gaining the power of Yamamoto's power. Just now, Chen said that it is as difficult as going to the sky, but now it seems that 117 is still a bit euphemistic. Then Luffy remembered what Chen just said. Let this Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni show his strength. In fact, it is not entirely for Ace to choose this template, but for another purpose. So what is the purpose of this? At this time, after Ace smiled bitterly, his eyes lit up and said, Chen, I understand. In this Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni, I once again understood another way to strengthen the flame ability. That's fire and swordsmanship, isn't it? Hearing this, Chen's mouth twitched. It seemed that Ace really understood. That's right. The reason why he arranged for Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni to appear is actually inspirational rather than template selection. And now, Ace is really inspired. If we say, the previous Natsu, it is the flame plus body technique. Then the current Yamamoto Yuanyujai heavy country is obviously flame and swordsmanship. Undoubtedly, this is another way for Ace to get stronger. To understand this way, it is only good for him and no harm. And now, since Ace has understood, he won't say more. Then go ahead, the next one is also super powerful. Then Chen snapped his fingers again. When Ace and the others heard the words, they were instantly refreshed. Super powerful, could it be better than Yamamoto Genryuzai Shigekuni? Chapter 243, 23 Different Fires, Emperor Yan. Click. Phantom changed suddenly. The figure of Yamamoto Yuanyuzai Shigekuni disappeared. Also disappeared were the thousands of pitch-black skeletons he summoned. As for those diamonds, they were reborn again and completed their duties as tools. Seeing this, Ace and the others changed their expressions, showing anticipation. Super powerful, as Chen said. Does it mean that the next Otherworld powerhouse is super powerful, or does it mean? Is this new Otherworld powerhouse stronger than Yamamoto Motoyazai Shigekuni? That's it. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, a black-robed figure suddenly appeared in the field. It was a handsome young man. Who is this? Luffy raised his eyebrows and couldn't help looking behind the young man. I saw behind it, carrying an exaggerated large ruler. But what made Luffy care about was the man's powerful aura. At this time, seeing the black-robed man appear, a smile appeared on Chen's face. Who is he? The strongest person in Do-Chi continent, Xiao Yan. Having 23 kinds of different fires, therefore, he is called Emperor Yan. 5. Emperor Yan. Whitebeard and others moved in their hearts. Ace, on the other hand, showed a strong interest. Emperor Yan. It is worth mentioning that Ace also called himself Emperor Yan. He has a move that is named after it. And that move can be regarded as his ultimate big move, with infinite power. It's just that after seeing the power of Natsu and Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni, Ace can't be proud of himself. His move, Emperor Yan, might indeed be extremely powerful, but in Natsu and Yamamoto, it was obviously nothing. But at the moment, this Xiao Yan, who was called super powerful by Chen, should be extraordinary. The strongest man in Do-Chi continent, Emperor Yan. If that's the title, then it's scary. As for Luffy and others, they were attracted by the 23 different fires mentioned by Chen. 23 different fires, what does this mean? Could it be that Xiao Yan in front of him possesses 23 kinds of flame abilities? At this time, with the appearance of Xiao Yan, those revived Tool people, King Kong, also rioted. At this time, the King Kong people swept away the fear when dealing with Yamamoto Yuanyujai's re-emergence of the country, grinned, or roared, and attacked Xiao Yan. There are so many strange beasts. However, when Xiao Yan saw this, his delicate face did not show fear, he was only slightly surprised. Immediately afterwards, he stretched out his white palm and rubbed it slightly. A ray of blue flames emerged. Seeing this, Ace and the others suddenly changed their expressions. It was at this moment that the flames grew up and turned into the shape of a lotus flower. Looking from a distance, in Xiao Yan's hand, a slowly rotating green lotus appeared. Qinglian looks beautiful, but it exudes an obvious aura of destruction. This can be seen from the slight distortion of the space around it. Seeing this scene, Chen explained with a smile, Qinglian Earth Heart Fire. This is the 19th ranked strange fire in the strange fire. 10 years into a spirit, 100 years into a lotus, 1,000 years into a lotus, the color is blue, and it can induce the volcanic eruption of the earth. Hearing Chen's explanation, everyone was stunned. Everyone, including Ace, was a little stunned. What kind of flame is this that can actually cause a volcanic eruption? In a way, isn't it similar to Akainu's ability? And next. It seems to confirm Chen's statement. Xiao Yan threw the Qinglian Earth Heart Fire in his hand forward. Qinglian Earth Heart Fire slowly spun, and finally submerged into the ground. It was at this moment that the ground that was originally unremarkable suddenly swelled up with a convex hull. The convex hull suddenly cracked, and immediately hot magma spurted out from it. Boom. With a loud bang, the jet of magma began to burst out towards the surroundings. The surrounding King Kong people suddenly stopped, not knowing whether to advance or retreat for a while. And just as they hesitated, the volcano erupted again. Boom. This time, the momentum was even greater, and the amount of magma erupted was even more terrifying. The large area seems to be raining from the sky. Roar. The screams of the King Kong soon revealed fear. Even if they have thick skin and thick flesh, they cannot resist this kind of magma with terrifying high temperature. For a time, the King Kongs all stopped charging, and some of them were clever, and even turned around and ran away. Just all of a sudden, the siege of the King Kongs was disintegrated. Seeing this, Ace and the others couldn't help but be amazed. This so-called Qinglian earth heart fire can really trigger a volcanic eruption. Simply incredible. However, the incredible is still behind. Xiao Yan was obviously not satisfied with just dismantling the siege of the King Kongs. I saw that he flicked his sleeves and released another kind of strange fire. This moment, in the sight of Ace and others, a strange scene suddenly appeared. As Xiao Yan swayed his sleeves, waves of azure blue water actually swept out of thin air. Backquote. What? 99. Seawater. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help looking at each other. Isn't it a flame powerhouse? Isn't that the Emperor Yan? Why suddenly, the sea water was released? However, just as everyone was thinking about it, an unexpected situation happened again. After the sea water swept over the King Kongs, they even ignited their hairs. The azure blue sea water surged up, causing the King Kong people to cry out in pain. Seeing this, Ace and the others couldn't help but froze again. What's going on here? At this time, Lu Chen's voice continued to sound. This is Hai Xinyan, different fire ranks 15th. Its color is dark blue, and it looks very strange. The flames slowly spread out like clear sea water, and the faint ripples are like water waves. 5. Hearing this, Ace and the others suddenly realized. It turned out that the substance that looked like sea water was still a kind of flame. Just understand, everyone still can't get Zhao can't help but look strange. Even if there is the Qinglian earth heart fire that can trigger volcanoes, there is still such a fire that looks like sea water. Isn't this amazing too? Wait, so, the 23 kinds of different fires are the 23 kinds of flames with strange abilities. At this moment, Ace suddenly asked Lu Chen in a heartfelt way. Just now, he was subconsciously attracted by Xiao Yan's name. But looking back now, the focus of Lu Chen's words just now was clearly the 23 kinds of strange fires. At this time, Ace also somewhat understood why he would call these flames different fires. Because these flames have strange effect abilities. But it was precisely because of this realization that Ace was even more shocked. This kind of flame with strange abilities, Xiao Yan in front of him actually possesses 23 kinds of qi. So, is this the reason why the other party is called the Emperor Yan? Chapter 244 The Power of the Different Fire, the Buddha's Anger Fire Lotus. Hear what Ace says. The corner of Lu Chen's mouth twitched. This time, it seems that Ace understands Xiao Yan's strength faster. That's right, it is precisely because he possesses 23 kinds of different fires that he is called Emperor Yan. That's why he is so powerful. The King Kong below, because of the magma eruption and Hai Xinyan's abuse, have already collapsed. Seeing this, Lu Chen immediately moved in his heart and created more diamonds. The sudden increase in the number finally restrained the decline of the King Kongs. There were even some King Kong, who wisely pulled up a big tree, or picked up a big stone, and threw it at Xiao Yan from a distance. Whoosh whoosh. Numerous diamonds acted at the same time, and for a time, the sky seemed to be raining with foreign objects. It's just that these foreign objects are all big trees or boulders of dozens of meters. These giant things, under the action of the giants of the King Kong, suddenly struck with an astonishing sound of breaking through the air. That kind of momentum made Ace and the others shudder. Even in the face of such a situation, Xiao Yan remained extremely calm. He opened his hands, and a new flame suddenly appeared on his body. This time, the flame was gray-brown, and after rising, it was like a huge stone tortoise, wrapping Xiao Yan's body. Immediately after, those giant trees and boulders came, and a magical scene appeared. The giant trees and boulders that were supposed to have strong kinetic energy under the great force of the King Kongs were unable to penetrate the flames and attack Xiao Yan's body. The tortoise-shaped flame that enveloped Xiao Yan was like a solid armor. Bang bang bang. The giant trees and boulders were bounced off. Seeing this, Ace and others couldn't help but be surprised. Another fire with magical effects. Obviously it is an elemental thing, but at this time it seems to have an entity. With previous experience, Ace et al. Have guessed. Some people can even see that the flames this time should be related to defense. And next, as predicted, Lu Chen's voice continued to sound. This is the 13th Tortoise Spirit Earth Fire, which is shaped like a tortoise and has a strong defense. Turtle Spirit Fire, in addition to being extremely strong in defense, obviously also has the characteristics of flame. I saw the foreign objects blocked by the flames, except for the boulders, all burned. Ace and the others looked at each other in dismay. Although they were already guessing, when Lu Chen really said the effect of the Turtle Spirit Fire, they were still a little stunned. Fire that can defend. ACBD, that's incredible, isn't it? But next, there's something even more peculiar. Under Lu Chen's deliberate actions, Xiao Yan below showed strange fires one after another. Bone Spirit Cold Fire that can be freely transformed between extreme cold and extreme heat. 3,000 flames of flames that can make people have an immortal body. It can help plants grow quickly and help host live a long life. The Pure Lotus Demon Fire that can purify the soul. Ace and the others just felt an eye-opener when they looked at the strange fires with different effects. Among them, Ace was even more refreshed when he saw 3,000 Yan Yanwo and one of the creatures, Yan. These two turned out to be flames related to healing. Immortality and longevity may all be the cure for Whitebeard. Original. Ace has decided to choose Natsu's power, but now, it can't help but shake. Obviously, compared with Natsu and Yamamoto Yuanyuzai Shigekuni, Xiao Yan can be regarded as a pure flame powerhouse. But his flames are infinitely useful. This situation made Ace excited. The only downside is probably Xiao Yan's flame ability, which is not as terrifying as Natsu and Yamamoto Yuanyuzai Chonguo. But just as Ace thought about it, the situation on the field changed again. However, after seeing Xiao Yan showing most of the strange fire, Lu Chen's mind moved, and he created a more powerful King Kong. The original King Kong people, in the successive display of different fires, collapsed and perished one after another. But in Lu Chen's view, Xiao Yan's ability has obviously not been fully exerted. So, soon, a King Kong who was more than 500 meters tall and exuded an unparalleled violent aura appeared in front of Xiao Yan again. Roar. This King Kong roared wildly, waved a small fist, and smashed it towards Xiao Yan. Boom. With one punch, the ground shook. The shocking loud noise made Whitebeard and the others look congealed. However, Xiao Yan was also very flexible, and when his figure moved, he easily avoided King Kong's attack. Immediately afterwards, his body was full of splendor, and the strange fire attacked again. Qinglian Earth Heart Fire, Bone Spirit Cold Fire, etc. It's just this time, the different fire that dealt with King Kong's invincibility just now was used on this stronger King Kong's body, but the effect was very small. What a strong guy, Luffy exclaimed. Marco and others also sighed for a while. At this time, Ace was staring at Xiao Yan. I saw Xiao Yan at this time, still unhurried, as if he didn't pay attention to this more powerful King Kong at all. In fact, and it is, when he found out that the peculiar fire alone could not cause any harm to King Kong, Xiao Yan suddenly fluttered his wings and flew into the sky. Whoosh! The black-robed figure flew directly into the sky. Looking down at King Kong below, a smile appeared on Xiao Yan's delicate face. Since that's the case, let you taste my trick. Trick. Hearing this, Whitebeard and the others were startled. Ace's eyes widened. Trick. Does this Xiao Yan have any other moves besides those incomparably powerful and strange fires? And next, as predicted, Xiao Yan's body once again had a strange fire. Qinglian is the blue of the fire, the white of the cold fire of the bone spirit, the brown of the fire of the tortoise spirit. Several different colors of different fires with different effects were unleashed by Xiao Yan at the same time. But what surprised Ace and the others was that these strange fires, Xiao Yan did not let them out directly, but instead condensed between his hands and kept merging together. Next moment, Xiao Yan held both hands together, and a group of beautiful three-color fire lotuses appeared in his palm. What? Combines. What move is this? 35. When Whitebeard and others saw this, they were immediately surprised. Several kinds of different fires with different effects have actually merged. When Lu Chen saw this, he smiled slightly. He knew this scene very well. It was Xiao Yan's world-famous trick. Buddha Angry Fire Lotus. The so-called Buddha's Fury Fire Lotus is to temporarily combine several different kinds of different fires, and then create an explosion with a sudden increase in power. This kind of fusion is difficult, but after success, the power of the different fire will be greatly improved. And next, as if to confirm this, with Xiao Yan gently tossing, the Buddha's Anger Fire Lotus immediately shot towards King Kong. Boom. Immediately, an earth-shattering loud noise rose up. The 245th chapter Fire Lotus Bombing, the first strange fire that does not exist. Boom. An earth-shattering loud noise rose up. At the moment of touching the Vajra, the stability of the Buddha's Fury Fire Lotus was immediately destroyed. The three different fires collided with each other, resulting in the outbreak of extremely terrifying power. Roar. King Kong roared loudly, and the roar carried the panic of tomorrow morning. At this moment, his incomparably huge body was actually knocked back a few steps by the explosion. Looking at its body again, Ace and the others couldn't help but gasp. I saw King Kong's huge body with a volume of 500 meters, and nearly half of it was blown up at this time. Rao is so, and the flames are constantly eroding King Kong's body. Ace and the others froze in their hearts. The power of this fusion of different fires is definitely not only improved, a level higher than the pure power of different fires. However, since this diamond was specially created by Lu Chen to test the power of Xiao Yanfo's Wrathful Lotus, it would not be easily defeated. I saw that after King Kong was blown up half of his body, the roar was still loud, and there was even a touch of anger. Immediately after, an incredible scene appeared. King Kong's body that was blown up started to recover quickly. The granulation of the wound rolled, and in the blink of an eye, the seemingly serious injury completely recovered. In addition, those strange fires that kept eroding were also extinguished by King Kong. After recovering, King Kong bared his teeth and grinned at Xiao Yan in the sky, beating his chest wildly, looking very proud. Sometimes it's not a good thing to resist beatings. 35. Seeing this, Xiao Yan did not get angry, but instead laughed dumbly. Immediately afterwards, strange fire rolled around him again. The number of different fires that appeared this time was even more. In addition to the previous Qinglian Earth Heart Fire, Sea Heart Flame, and Bone Spirit Cold Fire, there were also Turtle Spirit Earth Fire and 3000 Yan Yan Fire. At this moment, 5 different kinds of different fires once again condensed in Xiao Yan's hands. Like this, could it be? Seeing this familiar scene, Ace and the others froze again. So now, Xiao Yan wants to fuse the 5 different fires. At this moment, Lu Chen's voice sounded timely. This move is called Buddha's Fury Fire Lotus. It's a flame move created by Emperor Yan Xiaoyan. The principle of this move is to fuse the different fires together, and instantly burst into a more powerful power. The power of the Buddha's Furious Fire Lotus, which is fused, depends on the quality and quantity of the different fires. Hearing this, Ace and the others were suddenly stunned. But still shocking. This Xiaoyan, even if he has so many effects, is still able to fuse them together to increase his power. And the previous 3 kinds of different fire fusion, the power that erupted, is already earth-shattering. Now that 5 different fires are to be merged, how amazing is its power? In addition, he also possesses 23 kinds of such strange fires. Just as Ace and the others were thinking in shock, a loud noise suddenly attracted their attention. Boom. Obviously, it was Xiao Yan who once again shrewdly merged the 5 kinds of different fires, turned them into 5-color fire lotuses, and threw them out again. The moment he saw the 5-color fire lotus, the proud look on King Kong's face instantly solidified. When he came back to his senses, it hurriedly ducked. But in the face of such a large-scale explosive attack, where can the mountain-sized King Kong escape? When the explosion sounded again, most of King Kong's body flew away. The terrifying scorching pain made it scream loudly. At the location of the explosion, the forest floor also disappeared, revealing a terrifying abyss hole. Ace and others were once again shocked by this power. But King Kong is still not dead. Instead of dying, it even recovered again. This King Kong made by Chen has strong resilience, as if it has an immortal body. In fact, it is. The ability that Chen set for this King Kong is infinite self-healing. Unless it is wiped out all at once, otherwise, no one can think of killing it. Seeing such resilience, Ace and others couldn't help but marvel. This kind of resilience is very likely to be stronger than the effect of Zone's fruit ability after awakening. However, this King Kong has such a huge body and powerful strength, which is really amazing. However, in the face of such a King Kong, Xiao Yan's mouth twitched, as if he was interested. Very good, I haven't met such an opponent for a long time. Then play with you. 35. Xiao Yan smiled lightly, and once again released the Buddha's Fury Fire Lotus. When King Kong saw this, his pupils shrank. This time, it learned to behave completely. The incomparably huge body took big strides, and it turned out to be a neat and direct escape. 0. Ask for flowers. But Xiao Yan, who was serious, also completely showed his power of strange fire. Qinglian Earth Heart Fire, Bone Spirit Cold Fire, Turtle Spirit Earth Fire, 3000 Flame Fire, Pure Lotus Demon Fire. A large number of different fires emerged from him. Against the backdrop of these strange fires, Xiao Yan in a black robe is like an emperor in flames. Then the Emperor in Fire began to create Buddha's Fury Fire Lotus, which launched a mad bombardment towards King Kong. There are 3-color Fire Lotus, 5-color Fire Lotus, and 7-color Fire Lotus. Boom boom boom. The huge forest suffered a devastating disaster and was destroyed in an instant. And the King Kong among them is not much better. No matter how strong its recovery ability is, it cannot withstand such a mad bombardment. Soon, its huge body fell to the ground dying. When Ace and the others saw this scene, their eyes widened and they were extremely shocked. From the fusion of the 7 different fires, the power of the Buddha's Fury Fire Lotus can no longer be described as earth-shattering, it is simply the real power to destroy the world. In the opinion of Ace and others, the flame power released by Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni is probably the same. The strength of this Xiao Yan can be imagined. But at this moment, Luffy suddenly asked a question. Chen, among these strange fires, it ranks first, what kind of strange fire? Why haven't I seen him use it? Hearing this, Ace and the others were startled, and then looked at Chen in surprise. Oh yes, after Luffy reminded them, they discovered this. Whether it is the previous display of the individual fire, or the fusion of the fire now, only the Buddha's Anger Fire Lotus. It seems that Xiao Yan has never used the number 1 different fire. What is that strange fire? Since it is ranked first, it should be the most powerful, why did Xiao Yan never use it to destroy this King Kong with an immortal body? Hearing this, Chen immediately laughed. Luffy is also obviously very sensitive, and he has discovered this too. In fact, the reason why Xiao Yan didn't use the number 1 Yiwo was very simple. Because, the number 1 strange fire does not exist. In Dochi continent, there are actually only 22 types of different fires, strictly speaking. The reason why there are 23 kinds of different fires is because the first ranked strange fire is the fusion of the other 22 different fires. Factory. Chapter 246 Tuoshi Gudi, make a training plan for Ace. Yan, also known as Tuoshi Gudi. This is the number 1 variant invariant. In fact, Xiao Yan's Buddha Fury Fire Lotus, to a certain extent, is a means of evolving to Emperor Yan. Because Emperor Yan was made by merging other 22 different types of fire. When Xiao Yan fused all the different fires, a group of colorful flames suddenly emerged slowly. See this scene. Ace and others feel the same way. This should be the number 1 alien fire. Immediately after. As predicted, Chen's voice sounded slowly. This is the number 1 Emperor Yan. Yan. Speaking of this name, Ace and the others showed shock in their eyes. At this moment, Yan seemed to be the only thing in this space. Next, when Xiao Yan threw the group of Emperor Yan lightly. A shocking 7 scene appeared. The forest just disappeared. Space collapses. That very tenacious King Kong, the huge body is also broken inch by inch. It's like being wiped out by the gods. Terrifying, powerful. As if any word used to describe that flame is not appropriate enough. Is this Dian? Finally, the screen freezes. Emperor Yan converges. The owner of Emperor Yan, Emperor Yan Xiao Yan, also disappeared quietly as if he had completed his mission. At this time, the illusion space also collapsed. Everyone's eyes flashed, and they returned to the original island. Came back. Everything just now, is it true? Is there really such an alien powerhouse? Looking at the familiar environment, everyone was a little lost. This trip to the fantasy world is much more incredible than watching Marco's ability awakening just now. This also made everyone wonder whether everything just now was real, or whether it was just an illusion from beginning to end. If it's true, why did they back out again? But if it's fake, it's just a fantasy, why is it so real? Those who exist, seem to exist in the world outside of them. When they came back to their senses, everyone suddenly looked at Chen. Except for Luffy, who had been surprised, everyone was extremely surprised. Even Whitebeard is no exception. At this time, Whitebeard also completely believed in the existence of the training dojo. Although he still hadn't seen the existence of the training presence. But with the extremely real experience just now, he has been able to be sure that it is not difficult for Chen to create a training dojo in the illusion. Realizing this, Whitebeard also understands why the Straw Hat Pirates have become famous all over the world after only 1 year of debut. Obviously, the biggest reason is because of the existence of the trainer Chen. This guy is really not easy. Looking at Chen, Whitebeard couldn't help but sigh. As for Marco and the others, after giving Chen a surprised look, they all moved to Ace's side. How is it, Ace? Which character template power do you want to choose? It feels great. To be honest, I feel that they are almost better than Dad, and some of them are even stronger than Dad, hehe. At this time, Marco and others all asked Ace's opinion. So does Luffy. Although there are only 3 character templates this time, each template is very powerful. He was also curious as to which Ace would choose. Natsu like a humanoid beast. Or the terrifying Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni. Or, the Emperor Yan, who possesses 23 kinds of magical fires, Xiao Yan. At this time, Ace also showed a tangled color on his face. He thinks the same way as Luffy. Whether it is Natsu, or Yamamoto Yuanyujai Chonguo, or Xiao Yan, they are all very powerful flames. The flame ability of the 3 people can be said to have their own merits. So, it's really hard to choose. Originally, Ace fell in love with Natsu at first sight. Because of the flame plus body technique, it seems that it is not difficult for Ace. But after seeing Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni, Ace hesitated again. Although he knows nothing about swordsmanship, the flame power of Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni seems to be stronger than Natsu. And the last Xiao Yan, the power of flames, was also earth-shattering. Most importantly, his fire ability is amazing, and it seems to have the ability to heal Whitebeard. So, Ace was moved again. So now he feels that it is difficult to make a choice. After thinking about it, Ace still looked at Chen. Chen, which one do you think is better for me to choose? Saying so, Ace's eyes lit up. He suddenly realized that it was the most appropriate question to ask Chen. Because these character templates are all selected by Chen, the person who knows them best is Chen Zero. So in Chen's view, which one should I choose better? Hearing this, Chen suddenly burst into laughter. Ace is very smart. This question, indeed, is more appropriate to ask him. Because he not only knows Ace well, but also knows Natsu and others very well. And he has experience in assigning training programs to other people, and he certainly knows how the current Ace is the best. As a result, Chen immediately and straightforwardly introduced. I recommend you to choose the last one, Xiao Yan. 35. Xiao Yan. Ace's expression changed, but he was still a little hesitant. I think Natsu's power route is more suitable for me. Chen raised his eyebrows and could understand Ace's thoughts. After all, Natsu's power route is indeed the closest to Ace. But when Chen heard the words, he smiled and said, the reason why I recommend you to choose Xiao Yan. It is entirely because of his 23 different fire abilities, which will not only enhance your fire power, but also greatly increase your means. Increase. Of course, if you want to choose Natsu, that's fine. Natsu has great potential. However, my suggestion is that you can choose Xiao Yan as your training target, but at the same time learn how to use Natsu's flames. 35. Hearing this, Ace was taken aback. That's okay too. Chen smiled dumbly, of course. In fact, Chopper and Robin even chose 2 template strengths for training. The general meaning is to concentrate the advantages of the template and learn at the same time. But Chen thinks that Ace doesn't need that 1.3 so troublesome. Because he himself has the ability to fire. So even if he doesn't learn dragon slaying magic, he can still take the route of fire and body technique like Natsu. As for why Ace firmly recommends Xiao Yan's template power, of course, it is because Xiao Yan's flame ability is extremely powerful. Not to mention the mighty power, it also possesses various abilities. Xiao Yan, who became Emperor Yan, is not an exaggeration to say that he is an almighty god. If Ace can completely inherit his power, he will definitely be able to walk sideways in the pirate world. Thinking of this, Chen explained. Ace's eyes lit up immediately. If so, of course it would be better. Thinking of this, Ace no longer hesitated. Then I will choose Xiao Yan in the end. Lu Chen nodded and immediately made a training plan for Ace. Chapter 247 Ace's Training Plan, Whitebeard's Concern. System, start to customize. Training object, Ace. Goal, first customize to get Qinglian Earth Heart Fire and Burning Art. If Ace wanted to gain Xiao Yan's power, of course, he couldn't reach the sky in one step. So this time, Lu Chen gave him a step-by-step training plan. Open black lens bracket ding. The training plan is completed. Close black lens bracket. Training goal, get Burning Art and Qinglian Earth Heart Fire. Open black lens bracket training object. Porgas D Ace close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket training plan. Survive 100 days in an underground volcano, close black lens bracket. Seeing the training plan given by the system, Lu Chen immediately raised his eyebrows. Luffy asked curiously, Lu Chen, how is it? What is Ace's training plan? At this time, Ace and others also looked at Lu Chen, waiting for his answer. Even Whitebeard is no exception. They all wanted to know how difficult it was to train to obtain the flame ability of that Yan Emperor Xiao Yan. However, Lu Chen explained, it is too difficult to gain Xiao Yan's power at once. 35. That's why I lowered my target, and temporarily only obtained Qinglian Earth Heart Fire and Xiao Yan's cultivation technique, Burning Art. 99. Burning. Ace was taken aback. Marco and the others also looked puzzled. What is burning trick? Lu Chen suddenly smiled. This is Emperor Yan Xiao Yan's cultivation method, you only need to understand, you must have this thing, in order to control the 23 kinds of strange fire, that's all. Ace and the others were suddenly stunned. Immediately, Ace asked, then how do you get the Qinglian Earth Heart Fire and the Burning Art? The corner of Lu Chen's mouth twitched. It's very simple. 35. You only need to survive in an underground volcano for 100 days, that's all. What? Ace was startled for a while. When Marco and the others heard the words, they immediately looked at each other. Luffy couldn't help but wonder. This is too simple, isn't it? Yes, it's just too simple. This point, Lu Chen also thinks so. After all, for Ace with the ability of Mera Mera Fruit. The underground volcano is not a desperate situation, but a very ordinary living environment. Whether it is high temperature or even magma, it will not have any effect on him. The only difficulty is probably the time limit. However, no matter how active Ace is, I believe that in order to obtain Qinglian Earth Heart Fire and Burning Art, it is estimated that he will be able to survive. It can be said, this training plan is probably the simplest one that Lu Chen has ever published. Even, it is much simpler than Chopper's complete inheritance of the training plan of the nature elf Xerneas. However, after thinking about it, Lu Chen understood. The reason why the training plan to obtain Qinglian Earth Heart Fire and Burning Art is so simple is actually for Ace. In fact, this training plan is not simple at all. Because it is very difficult to change to any one person. Like Luffy, can he survive 100 days in an underground volcano? With his physique, the difficulty can be imagined. So, this training plan, in fact, is still very difficult. It just happens that Ace has the ability of Mera Mera Fruit, so it will appear simple. When he understood, a smile appeared on Lu Chen's face. This training plan, for Ace, is extremely simple. Such a situation, for him, is naturally a good thing. Because after Ace completes the training plan, it is also equivalent to him obtaining Qinglian Earth Heart Fire and Burning Art. However, just Qinglian's Heart Fire and Burning tactics obviously couldn't satisfy Lu Chen's appetite. After getting the ace, his eyes turned to Joe's and the others. Hello, how about you? Do you want to become stronger? Hearing this, Joe's and the others were immediately startled. Their eyes widened, almost hearing it wrong. When Ace and Marco heard the words, they were greatly surprised. Joe's, Bister, can they too? Lu Chen, thank you so much. Joe's and the others suddenly looked at each other in dismay. After Lu Chen specified a training plan for Marco and Ace, he also made a training plan for them. Is it really possible? At this time, Whitebeard's expression froze. Lu Chen, if it's too reluctant, then forget it. As their captain, Whitebeard refused for Joe's and others. The reason is simple, he felt that Lu Chen's training plan was not simple. In Whitebeard's view, gaining any power comes at a price. Like Marco's training plan, it's okay. But the training plan of Ace is a bit of a joke. If you survive in an underground volcano for 100 days, you can get Qinglian Earth Heart Fire and what kind of burning art. That's amazing too, isn't it? Whitebeard attributes this magic to Lu Chen. He always felt that the source of those powers had something to do with Lu Chen. But he didn't think that Lu Chen would benefit from it, but felt that Lu Chen would be consumed. This point, in fact, can be known by watching Lu Chen's illusion. As the illusions were released one after another, Lu Chen's breath also dropped significantly. And hearing this, Luffy also suddenly looked at Lu Chen, his face stagnant. He hadn't paid attention to this issue before. Yes. Lu Chen's illusions are expendable. So these training plans he made, let others gain powerful strength, did he consume himself? There should be, right? Otherwise, where do those powers come from? Realizing this, Luffy couldn't help but look worried. Lu Chen, do you need to pay a price for making a training plan? Hearing this, Ace and the others were also taken aback, and then looked at Lu Chen in surprise. Lu Chen suddenly burst into laughter. He didn't expect that Whitebeard and others would worry about such a thing. Certainly, the concerns of Whitebeard and others are not without reason. Like Marco, formulating a training plan to awaken his Phoenix ability is just 117, which is barely reasonable. But like Ace, as long as you complete the training plan, you will be able to gain the power of a powerhouse from another world, which is too outrageous. So Whitebeard and others couldn't help but have some bad associations. However, what Whitebeard and others didn't know was that apart from releasing the illusion, making a training plan really didn't cost Chen. Because this is the cheat ability of his own system through traversal. Everything comes from the system, and Chen doesn't have to pay the slightest. In other words, creating illusions and successfully motivating others to complete the training program is Chen's contribution. And his reward is to get the same reward as when others complete the training plan. Thinking of this, Chen couldn't help laughing. Don't worry about me. As I said before, I'm a trainer. I will actually benefit from making a training plan for you. 39. Whitebeard and others are still a little dubious. It was Luffy, who suddenly thought of the ability that Chen occasionally showed. It seems that Chen also has the power that other people gain after training. For example, Zoro's flower field crazy bones. Oh, and Chopper's life-sharing ability. With that in mind, Luffy stopped worrying. Immediately afterwards, under his persuasion, Whitebeard finally stopped blocking and asked Chen to arrange training plans for Joes and others one by one. Chapter 248 Train each other. Whitebeard as teacher Luffy. It took a full 2 days. Chen also made a training plan for Joes and others in the white group except for Ace and Marco. There are those who awaken the ability to develop the fruit, and there are those who acquire the power of the character template. After the formulation, Chen also intimately used the meatball fruit ability to shoot a group of captains to islands or places suitable for training. In the end, there were only Whitebeard, Ace, Marco, Luffy, and Chen himself. At this time, Whitebeard's face showed surprise again. He recognized the ability used by Chen. It turned out to be the meatball fruit ability of the violent coon bear. But the question is, how did the power of the meatball fruit end up in Chen's hands? But soon, Whitebeard couldn't think much of it. Because at this time, Chen had already come to him. Whitebeard, don't resist, I'll send you away now. With that said, Chen will act. But at this moment, Whitebeard couldn't help but stop Chen. And many more. Then Whitebeard added, I'll just stay here. According to Chen, they were all separated and reunited after completing the training plan. Just like the Straw Hat Pirates. But Whitebeard felt that he did not need to leave because he was not the target of training. And at the moment, Whitebeard is reluctant to leave his home island. Whitebeard is clear. Next, the territory of their Whitebeard pirates will definitely be coveted or even robbed by other pirates. A chaos is inevitable. Other sites Whitebeard can ignore, but this home island, Whitebeard, no matter what, does not want to let it fall into war again. Because that's how he lost his family. That won't work. Chen shook his head. Whitebeard doesn't have a training plan, but he can't stay here either. Because as far as the current situation is concerned, if he stays here, it is very likely that he will not live when Marco awakens his ability. Marco clearly understood Whitebeard's thoughts, and immediately persuaded, Dad, you should leave first. This island, I will help you protect it. Isn't there me? It is worth mentioning that Chen's arrangement for Marco is to let him stay on this Whitebeard's home island, and even participate in the next plundering battle. As for the reason, simple, of course to complete the training program. To know, Marco's training plan, but to save the wounded, save 3,000 wounded and sick patients. This number is not much to say. But to say less is definitely a lot. So, I want to achieve this goal in a short time. Where Marco completes the plan matters. In other words, the required environment is very important. Obviously, there is nothing more suitable for him to complete his training program than war. It is foreseeable that there will be countless battles, even wars, in the Whitebeard pirates' territory next. So Chen asked him to stay, and while completing the training plan, he could also make up for the vacancy left by Whitebeard and the captains, which would kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But now that Whitebeard wants to stay, of course Chen will not agree. Because he couldn't guarantee that during this period, nothing would happen to Whitebeard. As for Marco, of course he understood what Chen meant. So he followed suit. Ace is no exception, and persuaded him. But Whitebeard seemed stubborn, more to say. But at this moment, Chen suddenly smiled and said, Whitebeard, I have already agreed to your request and made a training plan for Marco and Ace. 5. And Joes, Bister, they. Have you forgotten what you said to me before? Whitebeard was stunned when he heard this. Chen continued. I was at Summit War, but I helped you a lot and now have a lot of training programs for your sons. Doesn't it matter if you should thank me? Whitebeard obviously didn't understand why Chen said that. What do you mean? Chen suddenly smiled. I mean very simple. 99. I let you leave here, not because of your safety, but because there is something you need to do. 99. This matter, even if you repay my kindness. Having said that, Whitebeard naturally couldn't stand it any longer, and asked with a frown, what's the matter? Do I have to leave here? Chen said without hesitation, of course. If you don't leave here, how can you be free to do things for me when you get caught up in other things? And this matter is actually very simple, that is, help me train this guy. Having said that, Chen gestured to Luffy next to him. Yeah, Luffy was taken aback for a moment. Ace and Marco were also stunned. Let Daddy go to special training Luffy. Chen smiled. That's right. Just let Whitebeard train Luffy. Now Luffy's situation is different from the original. Because of Chen's existence, he has nothing to do with Rayleigh. In this way, Luffy wants to practice Conqueror's Haki and complete the training plan to defeat 3,000 large beasts. Naturally it is somewhat difficult. Therefore, Chen has to find a teacher for him. Now without Rayleigh, Whitebeard is the obvious choice. It just so happens that Whitebeard owes him a great deal, who doesn't ask him to use him. Certainly. In addition to Luffy, Ace also needs to be taught. After all, if Ace wanted to follow Natsu's route, in addition to his flame ability, his physical skills had to be greatly improved. As for Haki, it goes without saying. In this way, this teacher is even more indispensable to Whitebeard. After all, Ace is his son. Backquote. Uncle Whitebeard wants to teach me to practice, great. When he came to his senses, Luffy burst into cheers. In Summit War, he had seen the power of Whitebeard. It would be great if Whitebeard could guide him. By now, Luffy finally understood why Chen had not let him complete the training plan. It turned out that he was assigned a teacher for Ndidi Zhao. For this teacher, Luffy is very satisfied. Seeing Luffy cheering, Whitebeard was taken aback. Immediately, Chen said to Ace, Ace, as well as you should also take some training in your physical skills and Haki. After completing the plan, let your father give you a good special training. Ace was taken aback for a moment, then smiled. Okay. As for Marco, he was also smiling. He looked at Whitebeard and said with a smile, Dad, you can't go now if you don't leave, don't worry, there will be no problem with me here. Whitebeard was silent for a moment, then shook his head and smiled wryly. Finally, under Marco's gaze, Chen took Luffy, Ace, and Whitebeard 3 and disappeared into the sky. Marco looked at it for a while, then retracted his gaze and grinned. Dad, I will do it. You used to protect us, now it's our turn to protect you. Chapter 249. During training, Marco's weird behavior. Just when Blackbeard and Hawkins got into a big fight. An island in the New World. This is also the site of Whitebeard. At this moment, the island is also in chaos. Several pirates came together and looted the island. Haha, what Whitebeard has been eliminated by the times. 99. I guess that Whitebeard has already died. This is our time. The pirates laughed while looting. But at this moment, a green flame suddenly shot from the distant sky. Looking closely, it turned out to be a big bird covered in green flames. A pirate laughed, and suddenly the laughter stopped abruptly. Bang! A big foot fell from the sky and directly kicked the pirate away. Immediately afterwards, the figure of Chingyan Big Bird rolled and fell to the ground, turning into a blonde man with a punk head and appearing at the scene. There is no doubt that it is the captain of the first division of the Whitebeard Pirates, Marco. Hey, your time hasn't come yet. Glancing at the scene, Marco said with a slightly condensed expression. It's him, Whitebeard Pirates First Division Captain, Marco. Damn, I actually met him. The pirates at the scene suddenly changed their faces wildly. The news that T-Beard can inquire about can basically be inquired about by pirates in the Shinchi 117 world. So they also know that they will hardly encounter members of the Whitebeard Pirates when they attack the Whitebeard territory. Except for Marco, the captain of the first division of the Whitebeard Pirates seems to be randomly wandering among the many Whitebeard Pirates. It depends on who is unlucky and meets him. And obviously, now they are just unlucky, so they ran into Marco. However, Marco was not of 4 emperors, and he was alone, so he did not scare everyone away. HMPH, what about the captain of the first team? The Whitebeard Pirates have fallen, what are you afraid of? That's right, there are so many of us, we're afraid that he won't succeed. Come on, kill him together. Marco is indeed very strong, but it is obviously impossible to scare off several pirate groups by one person. The surprised expressions of the pirates gradually became hideous, and then they waved their swords and killed Marco. Marco shook his head, turned into a phoenix again, and greeted the pirates. After half a day, the battle is over. The place was a mess. The pirates who were covered in bruises looked at Marco who was standing in a terrified face. Maybe it was Whitebeard's poor performance in Summit War, or maybe it's because the Whitebeard pirates have rarely made shots over the years. It may also be the case that the wall is falling and everyone is pushing. All in all, Marco, the Emperor's deputy, can't deter these pirates. However, when they really fought, these pirates discovered a fact in horror. That is, they are dead wrong. Although Whitebeard did not perform well in Summit War, although the Whitebeard pirates rarely shot in these years. Although the current Whitebeard pirates have been coveted and plundered by many forces. But they can't hide, as the Emperor's deputy, Marco's power. So much so that the combined efforts of their pirate groups couldn't even beat him alone. Is this the deputy of the strongest 4 emperors group? The pirates are a little regretful. It would be nice if he ran away when he met Marco. In that case, he alone cannot pursue so many of them. And now, it's all over. Seeing that Marco suddenly spread his green wings again and flew towards this side, all the pirates showed despair on their faces. Now they are unable to resist. Just close your eyes and wait to die. But next, something that everyone never expected happened. Marco, who once again spread his blue flame wings and flew in, did not launch an attack, but instead used group healing. Pineapple gravel. A large amount of green flames suddenly scattered the battlefield like rain. Feeling the recovery of their injuries, these pirates are all stupid. How is this going? Marco didn't kill them. Instead, They are saving them. Next, under the dazed gaze of everyone, Marco also deliberately flew to a small group of seriously injured pirates and treated them in person. What is this? He's saving us. Why? Why? The pirates were dumbfounded when they saw Marco, who was flying around and continuing to treat him. For a while, they didn't understand the situation. It was Marco who obviously injured them. Why is Marco treating them now? As for everyone's reaction, Marco was not surprised, and even laughed secretly. You're lucky. Although Marco is a doctor, he certainly does not have the habit of treating enemies. The reason for doing this, of course, is to complete the training plan that Chen gave him. Yes, just finishing the training program. At present, these pirates are actually the fourth wave of enemies that Marco has rescued. Since Chen left with Whitebeard and others, Marco has been in the Whitebeard pirates' territory. If you encounter a strong pirate group, you will leave directly. If you encounter a weaker group, you will directly defeat them, and then start treatment. In order to, of course, complete the training plan, fully develop the ability of the Phoenix to awaken, so as to save Whitebeard. So now, even if he hates these guys, Marco has to be patient and treat them. That's it. Another half day passed. The treatment is finally over. Then, under the puzzled eyes of the pirates, Marco got furious and drove them away. Watching several pirate ships disappear into the sea, Marco withdrew his gaze. Counting the number of seriously injured people who have been treated so far, a smile appeared on his face. At this speed, it won't take long to complete the training plan. I don't know now, Dad, how are they doing with Ace? Muttering, Marco suddenly turned into a phoenix again and flew into the sky. The other side, on a jungle island, Whitebeard, whom Marco missed, looked at Luffy with a smile on his face. At this time, Luffy, blindfolded, faced the invasion of a large beast. Brush, brush, brush. Luffy seemed to have eyes behind his back, constantly dodging the attacks of large beasts. Seeing this scene, Chen next to him also nodded. The idea of having Whitebeard train Luffy was correct. Like Rayleigh, he knows how to teach Luffy the use of two-color hockey. Obviously, Luffy can quickly complete the training plan only if he has mastered the two-color hockey. Boom, boom, boom. Soon, the large beast went mad and kept bombarding. The bombardment spread all the way, and even reached the bottom of the island. Inside a volcano, Ace smiled when he heard the constant roaring sound. Immediately, his face became straight, and he exercised beside the hot magma. While Luffy was working hard, he didn't let up. Chapter 250 Chen does not practice hockey, and comes to Daughter Island. On the jungle island, Luffy is still practicing. Whitebeard gave guidance from time to time. Chen watched from the side. It is worth mentioning that when Luffy first came to this jungle island, Luffy was eager to beat those large beasts. As a result, he worked hard for a day before barely defeating a large beast. In such a situation, Luffy was stunned for a moment. Because at this rate, it would take at least 10 years for him to complete the training plan Chen set for him. But soon, when Chen asked Whitebeard to teach himself hockey, Luffy finally understood. Hockey is the key to completing the training program. As a result, Luffy quickly began to practice honestly. Since Whitebeard wanted to repay Chen, of course, he also taught Luffy very seriously. But after a while, Whitebeard looked at Chen, who was on the sidelines, and suddenly said something that surprised Chen. Chen, why don't you learn it? If you have the power of master, you will be even stronger. Chen was startled, and immediately understood what Whitebeard meant. Obviously, during Summit War, Chen showed great strength, but he was still lacking. This deficiency is hockey. If he had hockey, Chen at that time would not be able to compete head-on with Admiral, and even defeating Admiral would not be difficult. Whitebeard apparently noticed that too. But oddly enough, now there is a good opportunity to learn hockey. Why is Chen indifferent? You know, the one in charge of teaching is even Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world. Just to understand, Chen couldn't help laughing dumbly. In fact, Whitebeard is right. Chen really needs the power of master hockey. Otherwise, no matter how strong they are in the future, they will not be able to deal with the elementalization of the admirals. What Whitebeard didn't know, however, was that Chen was already learning the power of hockey. It's just that he doesn't know. Certainly, no wonder. After all, no one would have thought that Chen's way of learning hockey was obtained by training others. So, as long as Luffy learns hockey and successfully completes the training program, Master Rubber Fourth Gear, he can also use this to gain hockey's power. And besides Luffy here, Robin et al. Too. So, now Chen is not worried about his hockey power at all. As long as half of the training plan he posted is completed, he can master hockey, even high-level hockey. Therefore, there is a situation where he has been watching from the sidelines. Certainly, this kind of thing cannot be said to Whitebeard. So Chen said, Kaido, you don't have to worry about that, Whitebeard. 9. However, Whitebeard's words also reminded Chen. He's here watching Luffy train, and it's not too good. It's impossible for him to be here for the past 2 years, right? Seems to have to find something to do. Think so. One morning, after saying goodbye to Luffy, Whitebeard, and Ace, Chen also left the jungle island. Amazon Lily Kingdom. At this moment, Pirate Queen Boa Hancock, sitting on the throne, listening to her mother-in-law explaining the situation of New World to herself. Although their daughter's island is peaceful, they cannot be completely isolated from the outside world. It is still necessary to understand the changes in the outside world. Especially after the Summit War, the new world began to surge. There was no accident. In the report of my mother-in-law, there was also information about the disappearance of the Whitebeard pirates. No one knows where Whitebeard and the others have gone. Currently, only Marco seems to be active in New World. But what made the Pirate Empress more interested was Marine's information. After the Summit War, Marshal Sengoku, Marine, took the blame and resigned. Of course, this is not surprising. After all, this time Marine, the loss is heavy. Not only did the Whitebeard pirates not completely remain, but even impel down in the rear was lost. Although everyone with discernment knows that Marine has an advantage, Sengoku, who is Marine Marshal, is obviously to blame. As a result, Sengoku abdicated. The Free Marshal Marine, who will do it? This was the information that made Boa Hancock's face change slightly. Akainu and Aokiji, two Marine Admiral, fought for the position of Marine Marshal. 35. After 10 days and 10 nights of battle, Akainu won and became the new Marshal Marine. After Akainu took office, the first decision he made was to move naval headquarters to New World. The mother-in-law explained. Boa Hancock's face became serious. Battle of the Admiral to decide Akainu, the new Marine Marshal. And this Akainu, in addition to his strength, is obviously a ruthless man. Moved naval headquarters to New World. Best of all, the current situation in New World is perfect for Marine's relocation. The eyes of all parties were focused on the Whitebeard pirates, which led to the relocation of naval headquarters was extremely smooth. There is no doubt that the next Marine will be involved in the New World. It stands to reason that as Marine's ally, Boa Hancock should be happy with Marine's development so well. But at this time, she was completely unhappy. Because she knew that the covenant between the 7 warlords of the sea and Marine was actually very fragile. Everyone has their own tricks, as long as they have any reason, they can betray each other. This can be seen from Blackbeard. Therefore, Marine's growth has no effect on her 7 warlords of the sea. On the contrary, when Marine becomes powerful, it is very likely that he will oppress them in turn. So, they still have to keep themselves strong. With that in mind, Boa Hancock will take his 2 younger sisters to check the practice of the people. Before the Summit War started, she had already arranged for all citizens to practice hockey, and now she has to implement it. As long as you become stronger, you will be able to stand better in the turbulent situation that follows. However, at this moment, a subordinate suddenly came to report with a strange expression. Lord Snake. 9. There's one on the island, man. Boa Hancock raised an eyebrow. Her 2 younger sisters were also stunned. Yesterday, the mother-in-law showed surprise. Man. At this moment, there is indeed a man on Daughter Island. This man fell from the sky. After Margaret and other national protectors found out, they immediately sent someone to notify the Pirate Empress. During this period, they launched a strong onlooker against the man. I saw this man, dressed in black, with a handsome face. It's none other than Lu Chen. At this time, Lu Chen looked at Margaret and other familiar faces, and suddenly smiled. Daughter Island, here I come. Factory.